think you ought to know. That Men's Radio. The place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show. It's Men's Radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, you won't cause you no dough. Men's Radio, that's the place for you. Russ Kane and Phil Dave.
What? Right.
What? It's marvelous. I love the vintage sound effects. That's very expensive. We spent a lot of money getting that really retro 1930s feel remix.
Yeah, I do have to explain
I paid Matt Waterhouse thousands for that remix. Sam Monroe, hello. Congratulations on your acting. I don't know, your life has exploded, and congratulations on Ziggy being 1 year old. That's lovely. Standby phone.
Oh, hang on a second.
Standby phone.
Can I just say, I am intending, by the way, to get a slightly better system than this.
No, I love this system because it's
to
so
play
shit.
The sound effects.
It's so completely shit that it makes everyone feel at home, which is great. Uh-oh.
Yes. Anyway.
That was Barry J. Allen. Hello, one and all. He doesn't actually speak like that, I'm assuming. Hello, one and all. Thank goodness it's the end of the working week. Jules Silverman. Woohoo. Jules, very attractive photo you've put up. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know if you're allowed to say that these days. God knows.
Well, you've just said it, so here's hoping.
I don't want to be Matt Hancock all of a sudden, do I? Woohoo. Good morning, everyone. Once again,
I see what you did there. Yeah. That was quite topical. Well done.
Thank you very much. It's almost like I look at the news occasionally.
Because for those of you who didn't get the reference, by the way, Matt Hancock, our esteemed health secretary, is he's screwing allegedly. Matt Hancock is who is our esteemed health secretary, is on the front page of the Sun this morning, apparently embracing someone who is not his missus. Oops. So anyway.
So you're listening to Men's Radio. You can hear us on Twitter. You can hear us on Facebook. We are all over the freaking place. We're also on Deluxe Radio and Radio Waves, which I'm very excited about. And also, of course, on our YouTube channel, which is Men's Radio Station. What do you mean, where's Phil today?
Oh, I think he means whereabouts is he? The fact that he's got a strange backdrop to him.
Oh, I see. He's in a secret location.
I'm in the loo with a view.
He's in his attic. Sam Road. Yeah, social distance. Yeah, Matt. Hey, Matt. What part of social distancing are you not quite following? Oh, Christ, people. People. Jesus, don't be led by your dick. Be led by your brain occasionally. It'll be really great. Jules Silverman. Lots of love. Thank you very much. Love you, Russ. Oh, Jules, love you more. Stephen Marsh. This is quite a good gag, Phil. You ready? It's a good game. What's your favorite part of the chicken? The drumsticks.
Very good. I see what you did there. Do you know Stephen Marsh, actually? I'm quite surprised that we haven't seen you more on the stage.
Well, there's one leaving at 12:30 out of Deadwood.
Oh, yes. I see what you did there.
Ramsey says, hello. Oh, God, if I could read, I'd be... Oh, no. You see, this is the problem. The key feature, the whole reason we created Men's Radio was the holler section on a Friday. No. Happy all Friday. Hello, all
Sorry
happy Friday. I don't understand what that means.
It's a holler free day.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you're slightly incorrect there, Ramsey. No, I'm joking. It is, I'm afraid, a holler free day. So.
Can you imagine? I'd love you to wander down to the canteen.
I could do it. I was going to say, waltz into the canteen and start making a colour here where I am.
Hi, everybody. Oh, look.
Don't mind me.
There's Julia. Clark Gilbert. Hi, Clark. Starting work now. Thought I'd say good morning and have a good show. Hi, Clark. How you doing, man?
Thank you, Clark. Right? Very kind.
If you haven't followed the news today, I mean, I wrote another sort of 1,000 words yesterday. I'm over 25,000 words in, and sorry about my throat. I think I can do it. Don't know what it is. And Ed Grossman, howdy, happy Friday. Oh, howdy, partner. You new in town? Hitch up your horse and come into the saloon. I got 2 fingers of red eye for you. Only just woken up. Lazy cow. Andrea Lucas, marvelous. Hey, since I've stopped drinking. Like I haven't had a drink for a week. Been living on just water on coffee. I've obviously been eating. My sleep pattern's completely changed. My God, completely changed. I wanted to do it, not because I had to do it, not that I wasn't under any instructions. I wanted to say, I'm like Phil in this regard. We are cut from the same ridiculous lame cloth, that if we could do it to prove it to ourselves, we could do it. Does that make sense to everybody? Phil, you're looking either, I don't know, bored, or you're about to go into.
No, sorry, I thought you were about to go into a monologue there.
No,
I didn't
it's not a
mean to
monologue.
interrupt.
I just wondered. Sometimes we do these things. Just shut your face. Sometimes we do these things to prove it to ourselves, not to anybody else.
No, totally. And actually, this week alone, it's been a week when I've sort of gone back on a bit of a carb-free diet. Today is actually the first day that I have carbs. And in fact, actually, you'll be delighted to hear the carbs are standing by in the form of a cheese and tomato croissant. Anyway, but the point is,
croissant. He's so European.
Don't ever say that again, even in jest. Anyway, the point is that I shall be. This is the first day that I will be having carbs, and I got to be honest that it was a tough first few days, because I think as soon as you make any change to diet, whether it be liquid intake, whether it be food intake, whatever it is, it's tricky because a lot of it's force of habit, and actually, I think the brain craves it. After a while.
It does. I get to 6, 7 o'clock after been just sitting at this. I don't do anything. So I just sit at my desk, staring at the screen. And I get to 6, 7 o'clock. I think, I need that drink. And I haven't had a drink since Sunday, which for me is ridiculous. I know it's a few days. I'm getting that. It's not months, it's a few days. But trust me, I haven't done this in years. And the difference in my sleep patterns is quite extraordinary.
When you say the difference, so what, you're sleeping better at night then?
I'm sleeping better, and I'm waking up much earlier, and I don't wake up feeling. And just to put into perspective, in case you think, oh my God, it's Lost Weekend with Ray Milland, I'm only having like 2 glasses of wine, or 1 martini, or a couple of nips of single malt. That's it. That's all I drink. I'm not sitting there like banging it back. So it's interesting, the effect. I haven't lost a single ounce, by the way. Not an ounce. I'm livid. Now then, Lee Durnford, you are not well. Our good pal, Mr. Lee Durnford, who is a very, very nice man. I still have a nasty virus this week. It's day 6 today. Anybody else had one recently? Not COVID. This is not good. He is not well. That's 6 days of him not being well. David Wimble, the god of the Looker newspaper, he is the Randolph Hearst of Kent. I just made that up. Hello, David, who is, of course, the grand fromage of radio waves and deluxe radio. Oh yeah. This is where the big knobs hang out. Yeah, that's right. Sen Monroe.
We've been accused of something similar before, I suppose.
Do you want to read this joke from Sen? I saw it yesterday, but it's worth repeating because it is funny.
This is a joke from Ramsay. The Markles are said to have rejected the title The Earl of Dumbarton for their son, as it contains the word dumb. At least it wasn't the Earl of Scunthorpe. I'm here all week.
I saw that yesterday and it cracked me up. When I was like chief marketer of Variety, what was Variety Club, now Variety the children's charity, but I'm not part of it anymore. I walked away from it after about 20 plus years for reasons I'm not going into. There was a PR guy, and he had on his side, he says, he came from Preston. He was always banging on about coming from Preston. You ever been to Preston? And he goes, I put the PR in Preston. And I said to him, thank God you didn't come from Scunthorpe. Anyway, that was, God, I couldn't believe anyone would have, I put the PR in Preston. Yeah, that's impressive. David Wimble was meeting up with me last week, inspirational to Gone on the Wagon. Well, David, yeah, I'll be honest. Thank you.
Well, this is the problem, you see, is that Russ is an inspiration to so many people.
He is. He's like a shining beacon of magnificence. They don't even have lighthouses on the coast of Kent. They could have gone horribly wrong. They don't even have lighthouses on the coast.
I'm very pleased you said that.
I am so pushing my luck today, boy. And, they just have David. David just walks on the beach, and his brilliance and luminescence guides the ships in safely. What a crap. Anyway, Lee, we wish you well. Shiny teeth. I've never had any. Have you ever had your teeth whitened?
I did for a brief time. I think it was my early 20s. My teeth started to hurt, and I thought, this is not a good sign. I'm not doing this anymore.
I hear it hurts badly.
Well, it's really strange because what it is almost like it hits the nerve of the teeth. So it's a very strange sensation. It doesn't hurt the gums. It's actually the teeth themselves that hurts. The most bizarre feeling. Anyway, so I decided very quickly to stop it. And I thought, you know what? If people don't like the color of my teeth, it's just not my problem. I clean that. I know full well that I'm so fastidious when it comes to oral hygiene that I actually don't care.
I'm in the mood. Lee, we wish you well. It's a rubbish virus. I know it's a lot of people I've seen on social media and some friends of mine too are saying they feel exhausted at the moment, which I think is part of it. Just exhausted. Getting back to Matt and Hancock, because it's too good not to do. Here's the thing. I don't care what people do in their private lives. It's none of my business. Doesn't affect me. I'm not interested. Doesn't bother me. Don't care. Right? But don't be a bloody, hypocrite. Tell everybody to freaking social distance. I don't see the kids. We can't hug. We've all been good little citizens, good little drones that we are. And he's, copping off with his assistant. She's got 3 kids. He's got kids. His wife's obviously being besieged by the press. You can imagine how she's feeling. Like shit, I think is the phrase we're looking for. It's bad enough if you're just a private individual. When you're one of the most key people.
Can I point out that, of course, though, that this is according to a report with the Sun, and it is.
You have seen the photos. I presume you've seen the photos.
I've seen the photos of the front page of the Sun, but we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure that it's Matt Hancock, even though people have said that it's undoubtedly him. You can't sort of take it as given.
Well, maybe. Look, let's be fair. Maybe she had something stuck in her teeth, like a bit of lettuce, and he was just using his tongue to try and. Instead, they didn't have any dental floss. They're in the
only thing. Yeah, the only thing I would say...
He didn't have dental floss. That's fair enough.
No, I know. The only thing I would suggest, though, that if Matt Hancock is listening to this, please, I absolutely implore you, do not go to Dominic Cummings for advice on an after speech, okay? It will not end well, and it's not worth it.
Do you know what it was? I've got it. Dominic Cummings, all right, he just went for an eye test. Have I got it right?
Yes, Dominic Cummings said he was going for an eye test.
Right. Well, this is all to do with health, and clearly Matt Hancock was having an oral hygiene exam.
That's
fair enough.
Yeah, he was just visiting the hygienist.
That's why I get the big bucks.
You see, all that needs is you to help him write that speech when he addresses, whenever he gets around to addressing it.
Sam Monroe, I'll do the punchline for you, gag. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Boom. Thanks. I'm here all week. Jules Silverman. It's funny. Sed's informed today. I had my second vaccine yesterday, and apart from being a bit more tired this morning, I'm all good this time. I had a full-on fever overnight last time, so I think I might again, but I didn't. Thank goodness. Here's the thing.
Well done, Jules.
Well done, Jules. I felt great. The first vaccine, nothing at all. Day 1 of the second vaccine, marvelous. Got halfway through day 2. Fell down like an oak in the forest. Man, I was absolutely gone. Oh, Ed Grossman, very good. Yes, you see, people are agreeing, they're understanding with the excuse that it was an eye test because apparently she's cock-eyed.
Hey.
Oh, come on.
That
is great. Ed, that is that's a really good gag. Stephen Marsh, accountant to the stars, I would hate to be in the public eye. Everything under scrutiny. Well, it's their choice, isn't it? It's a choice you make. No privacy. Not I got anything to hide, but I couldn't live with me constantly under the microscope living in a goldfish bowl. It's the choice you make. It's the choice you make. You want to have public life. It comes with good things and really horrible things. And that's how it is. Right? Or you can be a private person and,
You see, I beg to differ with that, actually. There are some people who are in the public eye.
Bye, everybody.
There were absolutely people in the public eye of years gone by who knew full well how to keep their private lives private. And they did not risk things. They did not come up with smears against them or anything like that because they knew how to behave. And look, we do have to go. We do have to go on the basis at the moment that this thing with allegedly Matt Hancock might not be anything. It might not be him, let's not forget. But even if it is, and this is a massive if it is, first of all, whose business is it? I'm sorry, and I don't necessarily approve of cheating on one's partner, if indeed that is what he is doing. But at the same time, it's not really anyone's business.
I don't get what he does in his private time. Somebody did a wonderful thing. It was a public figure on Twitter first thing this morning, said, I just don't know how he has the time. I've just about got the time and energy to walk the dog. And I know. Look,
I barely have time to sneeze.
I'll be honest with you, Phil, if Celia Ward decides to knock on my front door, or Stana Katic, it would be rude not to. It would be rude. I don't want us to be seen as inhospitable.
Stana Katic, is that a type of stair lift?
Stana Katic, trust me, it's a sort of lift you would love. Now then, here we've got some things, lots of things going on here. Lee Danford, thank you, Russ. I do think exhaustion has played a part in my illness. MS Teams fatigue combined with a daily torrent of about 60 I know it's endless, and life in general. I'll get better, but the doc has said there's a lot of nasty viruses around at the moment, which we've been waiting. Oh, for God's sake, Lee. Now, Lee is a highly intelligent, works with it. He's got a hugely vital job with a monstrously big and very clever company, right? So this is not some conspiracy nut sitting in his mum's spare bedroom. Nasty virus is waiting in the wings to attack. Be careful. Well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We can't lock down anymore. I mean, this is it, Come on. I wish you well. It's the exhaustion thing's a pain in the ass because it's very irritating as well.
Russ, really... speaking of exhaustion, later today...
Are you going to pick up the word exhaust, aren't you?
Yeah, you see? It's almost like I write links for a living. Right,
now, you never write them down. I never write.
No. I never write
one note in the history.
Well, I write them for others. And actually, if there are some links, I'll write for myself. But anyway, I digress. Speaking of exhaustion, later on today,
I'm James Max. That is how did you come up with that?
It takes a lot of training, believe me.
You're listening to me, James Max. It's incredible work.
Now, we are going to be speaking to Stefan Wyatt, who's the head of network development at Audi UK. Of course, Audi, Vorsprung durch Technik, have been doing some research into suggesting that us Brits are somewhat tired, get it, of overpaying. I'm here all week. I tell you, I can keep going as long as you want.
It's desperate. I don't want to give you an overinflated opinion of yourself.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate what you did there. Anyway, look, the bottom line is that we're going to be speaking about the amount that Brits are overpaying on the cost of cars. Now, I know what you're thinking to yourself. Hang on a second. This has got nothing to do with mental health and well-being. So here comes another tenuous link to justify it.
Okay.
The reason why
I'm agog listening to this complete bullshit. But go ahead.
Thank you. The reason why there is a link here is because, in all seriousness, in an age where actually most of us can't travel very far other than within the confines of this beautiful little island we call the United Kingdom. And many of us will be traveling around by the wonders of motor vehicle.
Yes.
If the cost of maintaining said vehicle is overly expensive in a year where so many people have ill been able to afford a sandwich half the time, never mind anything else, don't you think that somehow excludes some people from the ability to get away from all the trials and tribulations that the last year has had to offer.
This, haven't you? I thrust this on you very late last night, and you've actually thought about it.
Oh, it's just called saving your backside. It's what I do on this show. Anyway, the point
I was just going to say, here's a bloke from Audi because I like Audis and I like cars. That was my whole introduction.
But the point, in all seriousness, the point is that there are a lot of people who are at less chance or have a lesser chance of being able to go away and to travel in the way that so many of us will take for granted if we just want to jump in our cars and off we go, because the cost of it is too expensive. That's before we even got into the cost of all of these Airbnbs that gone sky high in this country, because
they're just rinsing us. They're rinsing
it because frankly they're trying to make up for the loss of the last year, and we kind of don't blame them.
Everyone's going to screw back to Matt Hancock. Everyone's going to screw everybody else. I get it. They've had a whole year of no income. Totally understand that. But everybody else has had a year of no freaking income. So when everybody's shoving the prices to the roof, and people are going to go, well, I can't afford that.
Ramsey, I can't believe you haven't seen this. I can't believe you haven't seen this. He's saying Phil's gone Alan Partridge with the driving gloves.
I call it sports casual.
Okay, I really plan on mentioning this once throughout this show, and that's it. Okay, so if you didn't hear this, I'm sorry. I won't. I really won't bother saying it again.
You've upset him.
No, it's fine. It's not upset. It's just I feel like it's boring for those who've heard it before. But the reason why I wear gloves is because I'm currently, as you can probably tell, not at home. No kidding.
You're kidding me.
Like this.
I thought that was an extension that your mother had put in.
Yeah, it's just a lighthouse we've put in. Don't mind us.
A lighthouse.
This is just overlooking Bushy. Don't mind me.
It's just genius. And your dad did it all himself. Good old.
I know, it's extraordinary.
Went down to B&Q and over the weekend built a lighthouse 800 feet in the air.
I tell you what, he can only do with a bit of with a bit of MDF and some sticky tape. It's absolutely incredible.
He's an amazing man. Gorilla tape. Look at that. Safe as houses.
Away. Anyway. The point is that I'm actually not at home at the moment, as you may have gathered. And when I'm out and about and when I travel, especially when I'm in a location where there are certain other individuals who I don't necessarily know and who are not part of the bubble, then I don't like to risk what germs there might be flying around. So it makes me, even if it's up here, makes me feel happier not touching things.
Why don't you just tell everybody you're doing your Alvin Stardust tribute act and get on with it?
You're right. I'm doing an Alvin Stardust.
I love you. I love you. Marvelous. Alvin Stardust.
Ramsey says that it's probably something to do with the fingerprints. Yeah, there's maybe an element of that.
Well, there is that. Look, if you're going to rob a bank, you don't have your fingerprints all over the place. He's just waiting till the staff go, then he can go down into the vault. And
Paul Andrews, you're being very naughty, sir. Now, you know full well I have not said anything to suggest where I am, so stop trying to give it away. But might I suggest, no, not at all. In fact, on the contrary, I would like to highlight that where I am at the moment has got the most phenomenal additional hygiene measures in place. In fact, way more than any other place I've seen.
Absolutely right.
But it's here. It's purely up here. I can't. There is something about it that I just can't at the moment deal with hands-on.
No, I'm the same. If I touch a surface, I freak out immediately.
Yeah, but touching computers or anything else at the moment that other people have used. Now, that's just me. It's just my fault. Any odd way.
Andrea Lucas says she says. Thank you, mate. Potato. I've saved you having to find it on your phone. I thought Phil said.
If you'd like.
I'm not fussed one way or the other. She thought you said Aldi, not Audi. Yes, I'm driving.
There you go. Better late.
I'm driving my Aldi R8 V10. I can go up the aisle. Do your own jokes. I'm not doing that one. And what is the?
Actually, do you know what? You shouldn't underestimate the power behind an Aldi XR. Just saying.
You lost me.
You know, an Audi RX. Oh, no, it's an R8, isn't it? I'll screw that joke up. 8R. Oh, for goodness sake.
Lucky this isn't live, because that would have just.
Should we try that again? Don't underestimate. Don't underestimate the power of an Audi 8R. Thanks.
It's an R8, you dick.
I know. That's why I said it's an Audi. Exactly the same way it's Colin the Caterpillar, and not Cuthbert the Caterpillar. They get away with whatever they can with copying it, you see?
No. What's the weather forecast? I don't know what the weather forecast. Ramsey says put a crash.
I'll tell you what, have a look. There you go. If you want to know what the weather's doing, have a look out there, and that will give you a rough idea.
It's okay. It's all right. Stick the balaclava on.
Now, I think that we should have a little run through as to who else we're going to be meeting today.
Yeah, because I'd like to know. No.
Well, I'm very, very pleased that you said that, because coming up...
I'm just joshing.
Coming up at midday today, we're going to be speaking to Leslie Thomas. Now, Leslie is the money
not the
and
writer of not the writer of Stand Up Virgin Soldiers and all that. Not that Leslie.
Yes, no. Leslie is the money mastery business coach, and it's in particular she focuses on service-based female entrepreneurs who want to basically powerfully transform their limiting beliefs around them. So she empowers people, basically, which we like. So we'll be speaking to her a little later on around midday.
I hope she can empower my throat today. That'd be good.
Well, speaking of power, at 1 o'clock, we're going to be speaking with...
Wait. No, this is so good. This is a Phil special. Speaking of power, everybody, wait for it. Wait.
We're going to be meeting TJ Power. Now, TJ is a young, passionate psychological wellbeing consultant and also a director of mental health and wellbeing at White Calm. So we're going to be speaking to him, finding out all about his company, his work, what he does. I'm fairly sure. Have we met TJ Power before? His name sounds so familiar.
We met Thomas. It's quite confusing. We've met some of the family. There's a Thomas Power.
Okay.
There's a... Is it Claire? No, it's not Claire. Oh, God. Penny. There's Penny Power and Thomas Power, the mum and dad.
Oh, yes, of course.
There's TJ, who's also Thomas Power, so I managed to get a Zoom call with entirely the wrong person.
Excellent.
We were looking at each other going, who the hell are you? It was marvellous.
So there we go. And we're also going to be speaking, of course, in traditional fashion at around 1:30 this afternoon to the lovely Chantal Ricard.
And where will she be, Philip?
I believe she's live from Dubai today.
No,
she's gone again. No. She's gone back to New York.
That was last week's news, baby. Chantal is now in New York City.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. I can't keep up with her.
New York. Ramsey, can you ask the guy from Audi if an R8 FSI V8 with 50,000 on the clock is good value at 30 grand? You ask him. We're going to get him on. You can ask him. That's why we have guests. Ed, you naughty man. And it's not true because only the Mazda has the Wankel engine. Phil, the Audi R8 had a Wankel engine. You need gloves for it. That is so lame. It's so lame. Ed Grossman, lower fifth at school. Audi R8. I like Audi. I must be honest. Audi used to lend me cars when I was a flying eye. They lent me some of their top of the range cars for a bit. Wow. Oh, God, they were quick. But you'd sit at the lights and watch the petrol gauge go. God,
yeah, you see, I don't get that personally.
It drank it.
No, I don't get that. When you've got a car that drinks petrol in that capacity.
No. Phil, it was completely pointless. But to sit there, put your foot down and just blow everybody away was quite fun. It's pointless. There's no point to it.
But you can do that with an electric car now.
Yeah, but you don't get that. You don't get the V8 roar, do you?
And thank goodness for that.
No. They don't have soul. I know we're all going to get them, but they don't have soul. They don't have soul. A V8.
No, they have solar.
Very good. Very good. You're killing yourself today.
I'm on it. I'm telling you, I might have not had much sleep, but I'm on it.
Well, Andrea, here's the thing here. Can I be a test driver if they have a hybrid? Hybrids are an absolute waste of time. It's a really stupid idea. And I'll tell you why. With a hybrid car. And it's a serious point. If you're thinking, well, I might get a hybrid. Number one, what you're doing, you've got the worst of both worlds. So you've got an engine and you've got a whackingly heavy battery. So what you're doing is you're taking a car that would work perfectly nicely with an engine and you're slapping and lugging this hugely heavy battery around. And you only get maybe 20, if you're very lucky, if it all went wildly well, 30 miles on electric power. If you were very lucky, probably a lot less. It's the worst of both worlds, and you get no tax break. You still have to pay congestion charge, full parking. It's pointless. It's just a stupid marketing exercise. Get an electric car, that makes perfect sense, or get a petrol car, that makes sense. But the hybrids, waste of time. Don't touch them. Don't touch them. They don't give you any advantage. That's it.
I've got some good news for you.
What?
There's someone who's walking past where I am at the moment who's keeping his chin safe. It's nice and protected.
No.
Actually, I've come to the conclusion. Actually, I think we've been mistaking an awful lot of people. I think we've been mistaking an awful lot of people who've been wearing. I think loads of people who've been wearing what we thought were face masks are actually chin hammocks. We've missed
chin
out.
Bras. Maybe they're chin bras. I just made that up. I have no idea.
It could well be.
Who knew? You know what to do. We phone Jill Kenton. We get.
Do you know what? Jill's had a rough week this week.
Yeah, she lost her dog. Is that right?
One of her lovely doggies. Very sad.
I wrote it. It's horrible. Horrible. I mean, when Ebony goes, I will not be broadcasting for about a month. I'll be in pieces. Please God, not for a while. But she's 12. You never know. I've not been in the best. Russ, no congestion charge for hybrids, but they are used. No, Ed, that's not true. Hybrids do pay a congestion charge. Only pure electric don't pay the congestion charge. I'm sure.
I was going to say if they don't yet, there's certainly not going to be congestion charge exempt for much longer.
Well, here's the thing: when I had a Prius, which I didn't even bother to test drive, I was so unexcited. I just bought the thing, and I absolutely loved it. By the way, it was the kind of first generation of that kind of Prius-y shape. I got one. It was terrific. I absolutely loved it. It was comfortable. It was just great, right? And that was congestion free. And then, of course, they thought, oh no, all these people, they're getting Priuses. No, we need the money. So they stopped it being congestion free. And they did that. They said originally, oh no, hybrids, congestion free. Then they changed that. And full well within 3 to 5 years, every single car will have congestion charge. And you'll all have been forced into getting an electric car. There's a new advert. I really want your pure EVs are a total con. 30 grand for a minute. I know. Oh no, Ed. That's why I won't do it. My car's fully paid for. I've had it now 5-6 years. I love it. It's a little car. I don't go anywhere, so it's great, right? If I change the same model and go electric, right, I got to find an extra 20 grand, 25. Why would I do that? I'm never going to get that back in petrol. I'm never going to get it back in congestion charges. I'm never going to get back in parking charges. It'd be insane. So it is a con, absolute con. And they know that. There's a very interesting ad on at the moment, Phil. And if we've got time, I would like, it's part car, part Marmite sandwich. Well done, Paul Rose, absolutely. Very interesting ad. And this, you know what I think, they keep conning us. Do this. Oh, and then they thought, like the diesel thing. Get rid of diesel. Diesel is the spawn of Satan. Diesel isn't the spawn of Satan. It's a nonsense. So we'll get rid of our diesel cars. Having been told to get diesel cars, which I did. I had 2. Excellent. Got rid of them. And now, blah, blah, blah. And the advert goes, it's for an electricity company that sells chargers, home charging systems, right? Bear with me. And the advert says, buy this and you can save. And it's a nicely done advert. So obviously spend a lot of money on it on TV. And then he says, and it'll help the already overstretched national grid. Excuse me, come again. This is my point. Where are they going to get all the extra power from? An advert now in 2021, when about 3.5 people have got electric cars, the already overstretched national grid. Watch out.
But this is always. Yeah, but this has always been a problem because I think it's actually been for a while already that we've been importing some of our energy from France.
That's why it smells of garlic.
I know, it's shocking.
Which on my toaster, it's like, what the hell? It's garlic.
Or onions. Anyway.
Onions.
But look, the point
That's is... Hoover. No, garlic and toaster.
The toaster's garlic, the Hoover is onions. Oh dear. And the electric razor only half works. Anyway, the point is, thank you.
Just for women.
The point when we finish casual xenophobia, right? The point is,
screw them, what they ever done for us.
Oh dear.
Giving us croque monsieur. Croque monsieur.
But to be fair,
paintings.
But to be fair, though, they have without doubt given us the rather fragrant listener. That is Francois Pascal.
Oh, that is true. That is the best thing to come out of France. That's it.
So, we shouldn't really complain too much.
Oh, here we go. Now, Lee Durnford would know this. Power. Lee Durnford is in this industry in a very top-level way. Power, Hinkley Point Nuclear Power Station, due for completion in 2026, built by the EDF, Electronic Dance Forum, and the Chinese. Lee, interesting question. Well, no. Question I'd like to know, do we own it, or do the Chinese own it? Seriously, I have no idea. I don't know how these things work. And is it, everybody going, oh, nuclear power, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. Look at Japan, look at Chernobyl. Is this, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. You're an engineer. I'm not an engineer. Are these things completely safe now? Or are you sitting with a time bomb? And I don't know what the hell.
You say that actually, whether or not these things are safe now. Now, obviously, I know it depends. I guess you could argue it depends in whose hands it falls. But I was watching this documentary about Chernobyl, about how many years on from it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really interesting. Like, even after all this time, they are actually not allowed to go into that area without protective gear and specialist equipment to check that the area you're in is not overactive, as it were.
Yeah, I know.
And this one part of this documentary, I can't for the life of me remember. I think it was David Attenborough narrated it, but I don't think he actually went there. But in this one sort of area, I know what it was. No, I lie. David Attenborough did not narrate it. I'm sorry, because there was one.
Keith Lemon.
No, do you know what it was? There was a documentary I was watching that David Attenborough was talking about Chernobyl, about one sort of part of it, and then it was that prompted me to watch another documentary about the area itself. Anyway, so in this documentary, and they took specialist equipment, and there was one part where they just walked into a harmless area of what appeared to be woodlands. They got out their sort of nuclear testing equipment. It was so radioactive that they had to, even with the equipment, run for their lives out because they said that in that short amount of time it could be too dangerous. Absolutely. What a terrifying thought that after 30 years or whatever it is.
My story about Chernobyl in a minute. Lee comes back. Thanks, Lee, because I know you're not well, but bless you for playing along. EDF and Chinese own it and will sell the power back to all of us. I always feel safe when the Chinese are in control of stuff like that. Makes me feel a nice warm feeling in my heart. When I was doing Panto,
I suspect that warm feeling will expand.
Yeah, it's going to expand when I start glowing green. Many years ago, I was doing Panto down at, I think it was Woking. It was at the Peacock Theatre, which was beautiful. And company manager said, between shows, would you mind meeting some kids? They're in from Russia. I said, sure. Of course, wouldn't mind. So I went down with some of the cast and we met the kids in the foyer. And they were maybe 14 or 15 years old. They were from Chernobyl. And they'd come to Britain. Maybe there was 20 of them, something like 20, 30 of these kids, maybe say 20. And they'd come to Britain to get out of the air of where they lived. And I was told that by doing that, it would extend their lives by 2 years. And I said, how do you mean? And he said, well, they're all going to die. And I looked at all these lovely kids and it broke my heart. Never forgotten it. Broke my heart. I mean, they didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Russian, but, we had a good time. And I thought, my God, just by coming to Britain for a very short period of time to sort of get their systems back physically better, it would extend their lives by 2 years, but they were all doomed. Just horrible. So I've never forgotten it, and I take it horribly seriously. When these things go wrong, it's diabolical. I bet
this is why it's so unbelievable that there is currently an agreement in place that I'm afraid the esteemed president of the United States, and sorry not to get political, but this is to highlight how worried I am about this. The president of the United States has seen fit to enter an agreement that was first arranged with the even better Barack Obama, who everyone thinks was some sort of demigod, who I really do not. I mean, he entered an agreement with Iran to say that ultimately in 5 years they would be allowed to develop nuclear.
Really?
Now, I'm sorry, but of all the countries, the countries,
dangerous, stupid. But every time, he looked terrible when he was elected. He looked, frail. Recently, I've been watching him. It's like, oh my God, do you look any frailer? Anyway, I'm sure Kamala, when she's finished finally going, she's in charge of the border. She won't go down and see it. It's such a pile of cack. It is such cack. It truly is. Ramsey makes a good point. Not just Chernobyl, my son's bedroom too, and he moved out 4 months ago. Tasteless but amusing. Lee Durnford, net zero carbon is the way forward for us and the planet. Electric is totally the way forward. However, quite how our domestic infrastructure will keep up with industry is the real challenge. That I've been banging on about this, Lee, and I have no technical expertise whatsoever. I can just about make a sandwich. I get what you're saying. It would be lovely, there we are, being good little citizens as ever, and, sorting out our recycling, and we're all marvellous and going to the dump. It's all great, and buying all these electric cars for £8 billion when they're worth tuppence, and all of this stuff. If the other countries of the world are doing it, but you look at India, Pakistan, China, they playing along? Don't think so. So you putting your loo roll tube into recycling, I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to be saying. I'll do it, but there you go. No, Paul Andrews, you're talking about the president. Look at the alternative choice on the ballot. Yeah, I know, totally. But he only just won, which means there's a lot of there's millions and millions and millions of disenfranchised Americans who loathe this guy. Serious question: which president do you like from the last 40 years?
Abraham Lincoln.
I like Ronald Reagan. I actually like Ronald Reagan. I thought Reagan was good. I like Ronald Reagan. I thought Obama was smoke and mirrors. Always thought that. Carter, hopeless, absolutely hopeless, completely out of his league. Very nice man, very honorable man. Wasn't the job for him. I was living in America when he was elected. In fact, I saw the inauguration there. My God, I was watching it in the office in New York, and the people around me were going nuts.
I don't know, because actually in my life, I'm genuinely serious. I don't think in my lifetime, and I believe that when I was born, it would have been George Bush Sr. who would have been in the White House.
Are you kidding me? Oh my God, I always forget you're 12.
George Bush Sr. would have been in the office when I was born, I think. And I'm too young to have sort of taken an interest in American politics from those days. So I didn't really remember much about his time in office. I certainly remember Bill Clinton's time. And fun enough, actually, I didn't think Bill Clinton's time was going that badly until all of that nonsense with the cigar. And then...
Do you know who I was in contact with yesterday? Monica
Hillary
Lewinsky.
Clinton.
No. Thank you. God. Oh, no. I mean, not even American women Democrats could vote for her. That's how poisonous she is. No, Monica Lewinsky. No, not a joke. Wow. No, serious on Twitter. Serious. Yeah, I always send her little comments and stuff. She's very funny, very witty, very witty. She's
Has she given up smoking?
How old was she? 19? What was she? 19, 20-year-old kid? The guy was disgusting. He's a barefaced, shitty liar. And that's what he is. That's what he always will be, covered up by his wife, who threatened everybody else if they came after him. And you know what they did to her? They hung her out to dry. She was a baby. She was like 19 years old. For Christ's sake, he's the most powerful man on the planet. Get a grip. I thought Ronald Reagan was probably the best. Ed Grossman, Russ, Reagan was best. Loved seeing him riding with the Queen. And also, he was a very funny stand-up. His gags were hilarious. Absolutely wonderful. Dave Sleet, Reagan had a massive cross-party back-of-the-house team, last president to work that way. Well, that's probably why it worked. Putting the country first rather than A, their own grubby little interests, and B, just the interests of their party.
I have to say that there are a couple of things about the American political system that I quite respect, and that is that a president can only serve a maximum of 2 terms in office.
Yep.
I personally think that is a very good system to have. And it's bizarre that we've adopted it for the system for the mayoral candidates, but we haven't seemed to have extended it to prime minister. Not quite sure how that works. But anyway, but I've always believed that politicians should have a shelf life of 20 years maximum. I don't think they should be allowed to carry on with their career thereafter, because what it will do is it clogs up the works, it stops new people coming in and fresh ideas. And I just think it would be a whole heap better if there was a time limit to politicians. And to anyone who says, but hang on a second, you know, that's their career, that's what they do for a living, what are they supposed to do if they can't do the job that they know and they love? Well, you name one politician who hasn't gone on to not necessarily bigger and better things, but to other things. Have a look at, for example, in the papers today, that George Osborne, the former chancellor, he's now something like the chairman of the National Gallery or something like that.
Yeah. You know, you bounce. It's jobs for the boys, and you bounce from. Well, look how much money Blair's made. Well, he's made. Blair's worth north of 20 mil now. Worth more. Here we go.
You think he could afford a haircut?
No, I've got to address this. Ramsey, totally get your point. Ed was just making a gag. He wasn't being serious, I can assure you. So please don't take offense. Don't. I don't want to get... Vietnam was the first war that anyone had ever seen on television. And I remember as a kid, every single night, that was the main headlines about this offensive, that offensive. They should never have been there. Obviously, it was a terrible mistake. But there we go. And Ed says, look, TV didn't start the war. It's their job to report it. Well, yeah, it's true. We don't want career politicians, says Paul Andrews. We want people with real life experiences to bring to do the job. Yeah, this is something that I discuss with my significant other all the time. And I don't mean Phil. He's my other significant other. It's a fact. It's an absolute fact, because you think you've got no experience. You know what the bloody hell you're talking about. You've never done anything. You've been in some local yokel parish council or something, and then you move your way up, and then you get into politics. You never actually had a job per se.
And it's also
Paul
as well.
Claridge said George Osborne is becoming chairman of the
British Museum. Sorry, the chair of the British Museum. I knew it had British in the title. I didn't realize anyway. Sorry. Okay, but the point is
the British Evening Standard.
Yeah, and well as that. But that's actually kind of the point, is that he's not short of a job or two, and subsequently probably a bob or two either. But good luck to him. Why not? Indeed, the fact that he is no longer in politics, he's got to do something to earn his keep, and he clearly is. At the same time, I'm not sure I completely agree with these sort of former politicians getting certain roles just because they are who they are. But that's life all over. But that's life all over.
So connected.
Of course, that's life all over.
It's no different from showbiz. You know, if you're at the top of the tree.
No, absolutely.
You're at the top of the tree, and you think, why are these people, the same bloody people, always on every talk show, every chat show, every game show? Oh, Christ, them again. Because, you know, they just bounce from one thing to the other. That's how it works.
It's totally. And also, I'm very aware as well, and this does trouble me, is that it's quite hard to talk about people like this without sounding bitter. I want to make it very clear. I genuinely wouldn't be a politician if you paid me. I believe that I have some ability to talk the talk, but that's purely based on the job I do. But I wouldn't know the first thing about sort of getting involved in the nitty gritty of policies and implementing them.
It's incredibly
like it's
dull.
Just, well, apart
it's
from
very
being dull,
when you're close up to it, it's just full of paperwork.
But apart from being dull, you actually have to be, whether you believe this or not, you have to be blooming clever to do it, because you've got to have a half decent understanding of the law of this country. You can't just go in there and say, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. There are certain restrictions.
Sultana, whatever her name is, which is Sultana. She's clever. Christ.
Whatever you might think, the truth is that politicians have to have a certain ability to get to where they are, surely. Look, make no mistake. Do I like all of them? Absolutely not. Most of them are lying cretins, and that's being polite about them. So honestly, I just think that we need to be aware that
Paul Claridge
it's not
making
easy.
a point. Paul's making a point, Paul Claridge. The chair of the British Museum is an unpaid role.
Very good. Thank you for clarifying that, Paul. Genuinely, I didn't realise that, as you may have been able to tell.
Osborne, the worst Chancellor of the Exchequer in history, should stick to the family wallpaper business.
No, I don't know if I agree with that.
Farron Ball. I'm kidding. It's just a joke.
Let's not forget that Gordon Brown sold off all of the gold.
Anyway. Gordon, prudent. You're an idiot. Yeah. I went to 11 Downing Street for a meeting with his wife, who was absolutely charming. I've forgotten her name.
Sarah.
She was charming. Sarah Brown. She was absolutely lovely. I went there, and it wasn't a big meeting. It was a little meeting. I just had a meeting with her. It was a charity thing years ago. And no, I wasn't. When Gordon popped in looking for something, and I was like that. I didn't want to upset. She was lovely. I have to say, she was very, very nice. It was funny me wandering around. I made such a faux pas.
I don't believe that for a second.
Oh God, I was at either 10 Downing Street or 11 Downing Street for a cocktail do back in the day when I had a life, and there was another Chancellor of the Exchequer, and I couldn't see the speaker, and a lady was speaking. And then she came over, and I said, "Oh, that was a great speech. Well done, black. You should black smoke up their bottoms to be polite." And she hadn't made the speech at all. It was another woman, but I didn't have line of sight. And she was the wife of the Chancellor. So we had a completely ridiculous conversation. Me thinking she was someone else. She was the Chancellor's wife. I can't remember his name. Who was it? It wasn't Gordon Brown.
Well, which line? What year are we talking?
God, 1937, Hitler was massing on the Polish border. I can't remember. Everything feels like yesterday or 3 centuries ago.
Well, I know the reason why
Scottish,
I asked is
Scottish, I think. Scottish or Welsh. I can't remember.
Scottish or Welsh?
Yeah, something like that.
Was Alistair Darling?
Alistair Darling, yeah, I think it was Mrs. Darling.
Yeah.
Mrs. Darling, I said, you were great in Peter Pan.
Good God. Oh. Strength. I would like to warn you that our first guest is waiting in the digital green room. Perhaps you'd be so kind as to not scare them off.
Has he got the paperwork from? Well, I'm going to ask him point blank. I'm going because I want this car. He's going to give it to me. He doesn't know. Watch me work my magic. Watch and learn. No, come on, Philip. After you.
What?
You said our first guest is ready.
I said our first guest is very patiently waiting in the digital green room, and I didn't want you to scare them off with your humour.
What humour?
Well, quite. My point exactly. Oh, do you know what? I think we've teased enough. This is the Daily Show here on Men's Radio with him, Russ Kane, and with me, Phil Dave. We are live, unbelievably enough, until 2:00 this afternoon, if you can tolerate it.
He's back from Mexico. Lloyd.
Hey, what?
Beanie, he's back. Oh, he was in Mexico. He's come back safely in one piece.
We're live until 2:00 this afternoon across Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. And we're also on mensradiostation.com, across as well radio waves and Deluxe Radio and the Men's Radio Station app. Whichever way you are listening to us, you are most welcome, I'm quite sure.
Well, stick your head out the window, you can hear us.
Oh, quite. We'll just stand on a roof and use a traffic cone.
Well, you can. Well, you are.
Well, quite. It's now time in the loo with a view. Now, it's time for us to speak with our first guest, Leslie Thomas, who is money and mastery business coach. What?
Where's my howdy man?
Not until 12:30.
I'm very confused. I wouldn't mind. I set all this up.
Oh, heaven help us.
Keep it up. All right, let's bring on Leslie Thomas and her books.
Leslie, save the show, for heaven's sake. How nice to meet you.
And I arrived early so I could listen in to you both, and it was so worth it.
That's very, very kind of you to lie like that. We really appreciate it.
Leslie, when you switch the sauna on, don't all your lovely diplomas and everything start to wilt?
We've had this conversation, Russ, haven't we?
I know, but it's still it's worth doing again.
When people call my lovely garden office a sauna, no, it's not a sauna. It is a garden office. But actually saying that, because the weather is getting warmer, it is more like a sauna. So Yeah, I can kind of get that.
Now, my dad was a timber importer, Leslie, and I grew up. The smell of timber is very, very evocative to me. So looking at that, does it have that lovely timber smell?
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
Can I just say, sorry, it's worth mentioning. It's worth mentioning that Russ's father was a timber merchant until they gave him the chop. Thank you.
Anyway. Please don't, Leslie. If you're going to encourage him, this is going to be a very short interview. I can tell you that now. Don't encourage him, for God's sake.
Okay. Zip.
No, Leslie.
No, it is so. Isn't it funny though? Just as an aside, but this is sort of about mental health and how you feel. How certain smells are so evocative and bring back such hugely powerful and often lovely memories. Like, for example, if I smell timber, even if I'm wandering around B&Q looking for some screws or something, and I happen to by chance walk into the timber, I'm suddenly I'm a child again, wandering around my dad's wharf down in the East End, and it's weird. Do you have that?
Oh yeah, timber shampoo for me.
It's what?
I have
do you know, I can't. That is so strange you say that, because it's not Timotei, but I was just about to say another bath product. Would you believe that sort of that absolutely evoke memories of me?
Is it matey?
A couple of weeks ago.
Is it matey bubble bath with you?
No, it is not matey bubble bath. It is actually Radox. It's Radox.
Oh, Radox.
Because
Radox.
What happened was that Radox brought out a limited edition of one of their original scents that my late grandmother used to use all the time. And so, of course, whenever I'd stay over there, and
how were you doing in your grandmother's bathroom when she was having a bath? Leslie, I can only apologise. I don't know what the hell's the matter with him.
Yeah,
he's tired.
Perhaps you'll let me finish.
Just move on.
Anyway, the point is that when I was, excuse me, I'm not having you make people believe that I used to be in the bathroom when my grandmother was in there. What's the matter with you, man? I'm going to clear my name. Damn it! Now, shush. Anyway, the point is that what happened was that when I used to have, when I used to stay around there as a mere 5 or 6 year old or what have you, like a good little boy would have a bath in the evening or what have you, and she used to put a drop of this Radox in, but it always used to remind me of it. Then Radox stopped doing that particular scent, and it was only until they reintroduced it that I thought to myself, I'd totally forgotten, and I was right back there.
And it takes you right back.
Boring story I've ever.
Hey, look, you've got 3 hours of this show. You've got to fill it somehow.
Yeah, Leslie, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, have things been going from strength to strength for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Tell us all about it.
Well, for me, it is all about how I can help people to have a better relationship with money and to have a better relationship with themselves in terms of their self-worth, their self-value. Because as we've discussed before, Russ, our relationship with money tends to go right back to when we were children and the relationship our parents had with money and how they imprinted that relationship onto us without us even realizing it. And very often people think that our money mindset is just about money, when it's not. It's all to do as well with our feelings of value and self-worth. And unless you really get to the bottom of how that relationship is affecting you in your day-to-day life, then it really can be a case of you not understanding why you don't have the confidence, not understanding why you can't put yourself forward for certain things. And I help clients to understand their money story, to understand that very often their money story isn't theirs at all. They're taking it through from childhood, and to be able to understand how they can totally own their own money story and then have that much more healthy relationship with money and with themselves.
See, I'm seeing two things here, both of which are hugely important, which is why I was so pleased you come back. Number one, and to me, they're kind of completely separate, but you're the expert, so you're going to tell me I'm talking nonsense. One is self-esteem. And this is a huge theme that runs through both the radio stations. It's so bad. Low self-esteem is crippling. And I use the word advisedly. It's absolutely crippling. So I'd like to talk about that. That's item number one, because so many people, when they suffer from lowest self-esteem, their life is miserable. They make terrible choices, horrible compromises, and feel pretty miserable themselves and so I get that. But the other is I'm not quite seeing the link, and you're going to tell me how it works between having that and money, because I'm useless with money. I mean, I'm the first to say it. I'm creative. I do my writing. I do this sort of stuff, and I like to do stand up. But with money, absolute rubbish. I've always been rubbish with it. You know, I kind of bumble through life, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it's disastrous. But I'm no good with it. I'm no good with it. I'm not driven by it.
You're telling yourself, though. You're telling yourself you're no good with it. And
no, my dad told me I was rubbish.
And there we go. And
no, I'm with you. I'm endorsing what you're saying. My dad,
exactly.
You know, he said if you've got a pound in you, he said the problem with you got a pound in your pocket, you got to spend it. It's actually quite right. I do, but because I think life's too short, so I might as well have fun. So how do we link these? How do we link these two, what in my head, disparate things? Because that really fascinates me.
Okay, because they're not disparate at all. So you've just given a really good example there of your dad saying to you, "You're no good with money." We're not actually born with any knowledge of money whatsoever for us to be good or bad with it. We simply develop a message one way or the other. If you are bad at something, you can do what is required to make yourself better at it. So when you say, I'm no good with money, what does that actually mean? Does it mean money burns a hole in your pocket? Does it mean you don't believe you have the ability to save money? Does it mean that you lose money? You literally cannot hold on to it, that you are incapable of keeping it. And there's so many messages that we give ourselves that are simply stories. There's no evidence that they are actually true, but we take on that truth as though it were true. And once we start to realize the impact that message has on us, that is when we can do something about it, if we want to do something about it. Because
that's so interesting.
Well, and the thing is, some people are very, very happy to say something about themselves and for it to be true, and for them not to think of the impact. So you, for example, saying you're no good with money. Well, what actually, if you prove to yourself you were good with money, what difference could that make for your life rather than going through?
It would just surprise me. It would surprise me and cheer me up. It wouldn't make any difference to my physical and life and stuff that I have, because I'm not a stuff person. But it would be interesting up here. It would make no particular difference to my actual life. Question for you, and it's a slight tangent. You made an interesting point. We're not born knowing anything about money, and I have thought for years, and I'd love to know where you stand on this, that basic money, basic economics should be part of the school curriculum. I'm not talking about maths. I'm not
100%.
I'm not talking about elevated economics. We were talking about the Chancellor earlier. I'm talking about household budget.
100%.
I don't get it's
how
so
on earth
key.
How on earth is it possible that the first time people, if they're lucky enough to be able to get a mortgage, how the heck is it possible that the first time in this world that we learn anything about mortgages is from when we first step into that banker's office?
Absolutely. And I so totally agree with you. And the way that our curriculum is our curriculum is for curriculum's sake rather than for learning. And things like fronted adverbials. I'm very good at English. When my child first came home and said, "Mum, can you talk to me about fronted adverbials?" I had to go to Google to find out what a
I've never heard of it, and I'm a writer.
And there we go.
Say that phrase again. What's it?
A fronted adverbial. So it is. So rather than saying he ran fastly, it's he fastly ran. So you're putting the descriptor of the verb ahead of the verb.
Ahead of the verb.
Yeah,
I got it. Okay.
Well, how is that going to benefit any child when, exactly as you said, both you said, teaching them about the basics, the rudimentaries of finance, how to manage money, how much a credit card actually costs you.
Precisely.
And I think that is where we are. And also, I think the whole thing about mindset and money mindset, that being taught at school is so important as well. Because
I don't understand why people like yourself, who are highly articulate and very persuasive, can't get together with other people and say, look, we've got to do something about this. I'd certainly endorse that, because I've never used, I can put hand on heart, since I left school, I have never used tangents, sines, cosines, logarithms,
Venn diagrams.
Venn diagrams.
Exactly.
I've never used my chemistry, which I was literally nearly blew my face off. That's how bad I was at it. Damn thing blew up. But I was so bored. Thank God I was looking out literally, Leslie, I looked away out the window for a second in the science block. The thing blew up and hit the ceiling. It would take my face off. I've never used any of this stuff. It's of no use to me whatsoever. But I would have loved to know how to balance, balance a bank balance, how to check it, to understand, as you say. I think we've grown up with generations of people who get a credit card, go, yay, you got to pay the sucker back, you idiot. It's not a magic money tree.
No. And that is what happened to me when I went to university. I had an application come through for a credit card, and it was a case of, woohoo, I get this much money and I only have to pay this much per month. And rather than actually looking at the cost of it, looking at the annual percentage rate that I would be paying in interest, I had no awareness of that at all, because right through the generations, as you've said, Russ, nobody has been taught about the basics of finance.
And what we need to think about in the long term as well with all of this, Leslie, sorry to interrupt us, but obviously that this station is all about mental health and well-being. That's what we focus on.
Yeah.
Now, what's one of the number one causes of people's mental health problems? It's money, worrying about financial problems. So if they were taught things that could actually help them at a very fundamental but basic level to manage money, what kind of release would that be? And relief, more importantly, for the NHS's mental health services? There's definitely some sort of correlation here that just hasn't been thought of. And if it has, it certainly hasn't been implemented.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And also, I read something last week or the week before that 95% of what we worry about never actually happens.
It's true. It's called catastrophizing.
There we go. And therefore, if we all understood the impact of our money and our money situation and how to overcome certain hurdles, etc., we would spend less time worrying about it and more time doing something about it. Because usually when we get into action, that is when we switch off that part of our brain that causes us to worry. When we're worried, we switch off that part of our brain that gets us into action. So it's a vicious circle, essentially. So the more we're empowered, the more difference it makes.
See, Ed Grossman said, Leslie, he's agreeing with you. Ed says, Leslie, I mentor people on money issues. The problem is with schools, they don't let kids find out that their first paycheck will be less than the gross. I blame teachers as well. They're just not interested.
Yeah. And I think that is a hugely significant point. In my boys' primary school, they did do something every year where they would give the class £10, and the class would be encouraged to find ways to increase that £10. And I thought that was brilliant, because it did get children into that creative part of their brains that saw investment as a way to grow their money. So some schools are doing it, but not enough schools are doing it. And I think as well, most children kind of go through the education system where they are very reliant on teachers to teach them something, which they don't. But at home, the parents haven't been equipped either, so they can't help their children. So the children really do come through the education system and arrive into adulthood they get very excited at their first paycheck without realizing how much they need to plan to use that money successfully. And then they get offered credit cards, bank loans, overdrafts, etc., etc. And before they know it, they're swamped in debt and they have no skills, financial skills, to work out how to get out of it.
And not to mention as well that that's before they've even mentioned how difficult the lending system actually is in this country. There are major flaws with that. I've waffled on about it long enough on this program in the past, so I'm not going to go into it again. It's no hidden secret that at the age of 34, nearly 35, I still live in the family home because as a young-ish freelance professional. I'm not a single at that. That's the clue word. That's the key word here. Single is that I am pretty much not able to obtain a mortgage that is adequate enough to suit where I need to live to work.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It is
and
crazy.
the number of sort of nights that has affected me is just horrendous.
Sure.
But make no mistake, I know it's not sort of something that's necessarily my fault per se, but my point is that it's all of these factors that build up and actually increase the problem that we call the mental health crisis in this country.
I agree. And I think
there's some great points coming in, Leslie, that are really backing up everything you're saying. Dave Sleet says, totally agree. Education for the system is never going to be education for life. And Veronica Curran up in Edinburgh says, understanding of mind health, life skills, which give a huge start to life.
Yeah.
You know, it's so key to, it makes me so upset that, you know, generation after generation haven't got a bloody clue what they're doing.
Well, actually, it's worse. It has gotten worse. You know, to Phil's point, you know, we always hope the next generation is going to have more than this generation and the previous generation. I bought my first house at 24. Lots of my peers bought their first house around about the same age. Why is it now, a generation later, it is so difficult for people to get onto the housing ladder?
I don't know how my younger kids are ever going to get on the property ladder. I have no idea. You know, I got married the first time around very, very young, and I had had a house and I had a mortgage and I had a job. And I've gone on about this, that you had an expectation that your income would grow every year. You'd have a slightly nicer holiday. You'd change your car every 18 months. These were rock solid, and all of that's gone. Everything's gone. Also, Leslie, while we've got you, here's another thing. There's two key things which have happened, I think. Number one is that there's three things. Number one, a lot of people are not prepared to work for that money. They think somehow it's going to just happen magically. Number two, the interest rates that the banks are offering are embarrassing. Even the banks are saying, we're so sorry, this is rubbish. I mean, it's just nonsense. And number three, when people are squeezed like this and we are bombarded in every ad break with, hey, it's bingo, and hey, it's gambling, and people are going to go, well, I'm earning the square root of sod all in the bank. I might as well have a gamble. I think this is all a very nasty. I think these things are all veering towards each other, and I don't like where it's going.
I think also that part of the problem is traditionally we are brought up to believe you work hard at school, you go to university, you get a job. And we don't actually look at the diversity of income. We don't look at the diversity of investment. So rather than it be a case of you have a salary and you rent or you buy a home, etc., we actually, again, going back to school, we should be encouraging children to understand the diversity of investment. So start looking at stocks and shares, maybe. Start looking at investing in rental property. Start looking at passive income. And there's so many, you know, the average millionaire has 7 income streams. So that plays to what you need to do to build up your income. But traditionally, we were told, and we tell our children, you need a salary, rather than actually looking at how else can you make an income. Making money doesn't necessarily have to be hard if you know how to make different forms of income. I've only come to this now, I'm 52, realizing it is
bloody good. Am I allowed to say that?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No, I don't know if you wouldn't say that on the BBC. I don't care. We're not the BBC. You're great.
It was a compliment. I don't mind.
It was a compliment. Of course, it was a compliment.
Thank you very much. But I think that's the thing. We just offer children the one route to making money, and that's having a job.
It's so true. I just don't get. Now, here's an interesting point from Lee Durnford, who's a highly intelligent guy with a huge company and very massive responsibilities. He's got 16,000 staff there. The DFE, what is that, Department of Education?
Yeah, Department for Education.
thank you. It needs to be lobbied to put financial management into the curriculum. I've been thinking about the approach needed for quite a while now, years. I even registered a domain for the idea. It's not going to get any easier for our children. Easy pay on devices being, easy pay on devices. Because, let me ask you this. It's just popped into my head. Obviously, they're trying to get a cashless society for whatever reason. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but that's clearly where they want to go. All right. Yeah. Do you think people, I mean, this is your business. Do you think people think if they're not handling physical pound notes, it's not actual money?
Yes, I do think there could definitely be some truth to that, because I do think very often when we're holding something, we see it as being more tangible. But that said, again, if you have the right relationship with money and you're checking your Starling bank account online, for example, you will see it as your money. It's when you haven't got that right relationship and you see money as being somewhat transient or very easy. I can go into an overdraft. It's not, it's not something to be fearful or ashamed of, particularly because of the pandemic. People's view of being in debt, for some people, they don't worry about it.
No, but it also, Leslie, it might be worse. It might be people are worried about what others will think if they don't appear to have that money in the first place.
Absolutely. And there's some work that I do with my clients around money archetypes, and we all are made up of 3 money archetypes. And one of those archetypes, celebrity, is exactly that. They want to be seen to be successful. They have all the accoutrements of that success, top of the range car, always look smart, perfectly coiffured, etc., etc. To the outside world, they look really, really successful. But actually, that lifestyle is being funded by debt because their business.
Or Katie Price being a prime. Absolute prime example. See what kills me about that? I met her when she was, I think, 19 or something. So I met her a few times. Moving on from that. Anyway, they always say, great businesswoman. Look at her. She's a brilliant businesswoman. How are you a brilliant businesswoman if you're £3.5 million in debt? You're not a brilliant businesswoman at all. You're the very opposite of that.
But then equally, Elon Musk, not one of his businesses has ever made money. Every single one of his businesses is in debt, but people are queuing up to actually work with him because they know, or they are hoping, it's a hedged bet, that one of his businesses is, and maybe the one that goes to the moon or Mars is going to be it, but one of them is going to hit gold because they are so invested in his brain, in his business acumen, that they are prepared to take that risk and to fund his vision, basically.
Well, if I had to choose between investing with Elon Musk, who's a genius, and Katie Price, I don't think I'd have to dwell on it too long, where my money's going to go.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point. It's, do you have the talent behind the vision to deliver at some point upon that vision, basically?
It's about, is this, it's a very old-fashioned phrase, but it's just sprung to mind. Is this a person of substance? Or is this a flimsy facade of absolute nonsense made up of smoke and mirrors, and it's all absolute rubbish?
Yeah.
And so many of these things are that. Now,
I wouldn't be surprised, though, if perception's 9/10 of it, though. If someone has got the ability to come across as either good with money or has money or worthy of investment, whatever it may be, then people are going to get the impression of that person that they want to put on. At the end of the day, if someone is a good enough performer, it doesn't matter what their stage is, as it were. If it just so happens that your stage is that you happen to be very good at appearing to have a lot of money or be worthy of investment, then people are going to fall for it. It's almost as it were an illusion.
But with Elon Musk, if you think that one guy decided to take on the entire automotive industry and has revolutionized it, and everybody else, all these people have been in business for 100 years or so, are desperately playing catch up to try and get even close to Elon's vision.
Make no mistake, make no mistake, it is very impressive, and I will never ever take away what he's achieved from Tesla, not least of all because it can't, because anyone with half a brain would find what he has done very impressive.
And that's not even his main business platform. His main business platform will be making everybody their own power provider. It's absolutely brilliant concept.
Yeah, I mean, I might stress that I'm not particularly sort of completely, should we say, in approval of some of the methods that he's used along the way, and some of the luxuries that he's adopted along the way. But look, whatever, each their own. That's none of my business. Look, can I just point out, sorry, that I was going to say, as far as there's something you said earlier on, Leslie, that I really do find interesting, and there was loads you've said interesting, but one in particular was when you were saying about how attitudes towards money are normally inherited, no pun intended, from relatives.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that, because I believe that sort of a lot of where my acumen towards money comes from, it comes from, so I've been told anyway, my late grandfather. Now, I have to point out at this stage, I never met my late grandfather. He died before I was born. But those who knew him and who know me say that a lot of the way I behave is quite similar to how he was when it came to money matters, and amongst other things as well. But I just find that bizarre that it's sort of, it doesn't necessarily have to be a learned behavior. It could also potentially, maybe it's not, but potentially be genetics as well.
And you know, the whole thing about money archetypes, some people will say it's nature and some will say it's nurture. And I definitely think there is something in the nature element that you do inherit those traits from previous relatives. We're never going to prove it 100%. We can only go by the evidence that's in front of us. And if your family is saying that your attitude towards money is very similar to your grandparent, to your grandfather, and there's evidence for that, then it's very hard to dispute it. But it is interesting, the fact that when we are born, as I said, we have no knowledge of money. It is a token way of buying product, buying services. You know, going years.
Do you ever wonder what it must be like to live in some of these tribal communities that have absolutely no currency whatsoever, and they just live off of the earth and trade with each other?
Exactly.
I wonder whether or not that sort of the bartering system makes you a happier person. But anyway, or one happier person, I should say.
Exactly. And I have had a conversation with my 15-year-old son about this, you know, going back to the days when it was about bartering. You know, if you needed, I don't know, something to light, you know, a fire, you would exchange it for something that you were growing as a crop, etc. And you do wonder whether that was a healthier environment to be in versus where we are now, where, you know, a large percentage of the wealth is owned by a tiny percentage of the population.
That is very true. Paul, I'm not going to read your thing now. Oh, Ed's coming up. What's your views on cryptocurrencies?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we are being driven down a route where and going back to the conversation where I said about having different investments, diversifying your income. Cryptocurrency is not something I've spent a huge amount of time looking at, to be honest with you, but I suspect it's going to become more and more important, not least because of what China's doing around the digital coin, etc., etc. So I think we are being forced to look at all different aspects of hard currency, cryptocurrency, particularly if we want to untie the connection between currency and politics, because obviously at the moment politics has a big driver. You know, when there's a presidential election going on, the dollar goes one of two ways. What's been going on with Brexit, the euro and pound have gone one of two ways. So I think cryptocurrency is here to stay. Will I invest in it at the moment? Probably not, but that's because I don't know enough about it, unfortunately.
It's a very interesting thing, Paul. It would take too long. I'm going to read your point after. Now, Leslie, you were, the other point that you were talking about, which I'd love to discuss, is you improve people's opinion of themselves.
Yeah.
How do you even start doing that?
First of all, understanding how they are feeling about themselves in the first place. So that sense of value that they have about what they do, that sense of worth about who they are in the world. Part of the problem with our relationship with money is that feeling of lack, that feeling of scarcity, and that feeling of scarcity can be something we feel within ourselves. So, for example, if we're running around our own business, it could transpire that we get very, very uncomfortable with going live on any social media platform, going live on a radio station, because we have real concern about what are the people on the other side thinking about me? Who am I to be talking about what I do, the skill set that I have? So that comparisonitis sets in. And if you're coming from a position of lack of self-worth already, then you have a voice in your head that is very loudly saying, don't do it. You'll end up looking foolish. Don't do it. What happens if you say the wrong thing? So it can really encourage a sense of devaluing who you are and the message that you have to offer. And all you do is scurry away to a quiet corner where nobody will listen to you, nobody will question you. But when you actually start to understand where those messages are coming from, how harmful they are to you in your present, but more importantly, what I get clients to focus on is their future self. So where they want to be in 3 years' time and the route that is going to get them there. When you understand where you want to go, put an action plan in place, you understand the effect that negativity can have in preventing you from getting to where you want to.
Here's a big psychological question. Do you think, excuse me, many people value themselves on how much they've got in the bank?
Yes. People do value themselves based on how much money they have, but where they value themselves in terms of how much they have will vary from person to person. Somebody with millions in the bank can devalue themselves as much as somebody who has nothing or very little in the bank, because you're usually benchmarking how you feel compared to somebody else. That's very often why mental health can come into this, because we all believe that we have to achieve certain things by certain points in our life. Going back to Phil's point with regards to buying a house, when you can't afford to buy a house because of the way the mortgage system and the house value has increased, etc., you could start going, well, why have I not bought a house at 25 when I'm meant to have, apparently, according to the life cycle, bought my first house at 25. I haven't got married at 30. What's wrong with me? If you're comparing yourself to an outdated system, millionaires very often will compare themselves to the next millionaire or the next billionaire. And unless you get to a point where you are happy with the goal that you have set for yourself, that you're owning the goal that you have set yourself, then all you're ever going to be doing is chasing that next goal. That's why it's really important to set goals that are achievable for you and that you are going to appreciate when you get there, rather than it continuously be moving the goalpost and never getting to enjoy each step of the way. For me, it's really important to celebrate each step along the way, not just the milestone when you get there.
It's very difficult.
Leslie,
I was going to say, it's very difficult when the whole of one's life for so many millions of people is you are defined by how successful you are. And success is how much have you got in the bank. It doesn't take in, are you a decent human being? Are you a generous person? Are you a nice person? Are you caring? Do you have a loving family? Those things don't seem to be as valued as, oh, this guy's got $500,000 in the bank. Whoa, he's a great guy. A great woman. It's difficult, isn't it, to break that?
It's because, though, you have placed your value on the amount in the bank, because nobody actually knows how much you have in the bank unless you tell people how much you have or haven't got, or you inflate what you've got. So the whole thing is to place your sense of value on where your values reside. And that is the difference. to remove yourself from comparing yourself to others, to be happy with the journey you are on, to be happy with the destination you have set for yourself. That is the important thing. And the most happy people in this world are those who are self-satisfied with what they have, and their only sense of wanting to achieve more is to improve the lives of others, and improving the lives of others, they improve their lives at the same time. If you're always looking for external validation, that is when you are going to struggle. That is when your self-worth is going to be at its lowest, because mostly people will not validate you, because there will be somebody else they will look up to a little bit more, or somebody who has a greater status. That is why your validation has to come from yourself, based on what your values are.
Leslie, your value is invaluable as far as I'm concerned. Where do people go if they want more information?
So my website is www.leslieathomas.com. And my email address is leslie@leslieathomas. The A is important, leslieathomas.com.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Leslie
it's been
Thomas.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. It's been fantastic
brilliant.
Speaking to you.
Absolutely brilliant.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, guys.
And inspiring as well, if I may say so.
Thank you. That's very kind, Russ. I really appreciate it.
Not at
Thank
all.
you both.
If you could bear to be with Phil and I, we'd love to have you back. There's so much more to discuss.
I would love to. Thank you very much.
Have a
the
lovely
right
weekend.
answer. Bye, Leslie. Bye.
Charming woman. Charming,
Fantastic.
intelligent, articulate, and gets her. I love it. Gets her points across and makes perfect sense. Interesting.
What more could you possibly want? Oh, I know.
Do you want to read Paul's? Comment? And very, very quickly, because Paul's made a whole thing, and I don't want to diss him. He has a rough life. A friend of mine who I do a bit of work for is a landlord with a small portfolio of houses. Recently, he's relet a few of them. The new tenants are all young, under 35s. They're in highly paid jobs, earning between 60 to 80 grand a year. Jesus. Each with clean credit histories. They told me they're renting because the bank's now turning them down for mortgages. It's not because they're financially untrustworthy. It's because the housing market has gone crazy, even in these. I find that extraordinary. Well, it's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's a very unfair system going on, to say the least. Anyway, so right. Well, without further ado, I think it's time for us to talk more money matters now. And we're joined now by Stephen Wyatt. Stephen, I beg your pardon. Stefan, I got your name right before.
Job you have to do. One bloody job.
I got your name.
Jesus
Stefan, in my defense, I got your name right before.
Man.
In my defense, I got your name right earlier on.
Straight away. There's going to be
I've been called much worse, so don't worry, Phil. Absolutely no problem.
Dear. Well, look, do you know what?
We had him dangling there, Stefan. For a minute, we could have really played that. We could have played that along for another 60 seconds.
Stefan Wyatt, of course, is the head of network development at Audi UK, and he joins us now on the Daily Show. Stefan, it's very good to meet you, sir. Thank you very much.
Now, what does that mean? The development? You mean, is it of the sites where you guys are, or what is it?
So I actually look after all of the customers and cars in service. So if you own an Audi, then essentially I'm going to be looking after you and making sure that you can stay safe and legal on the road. So yeah, absolutely fantastic job.
That sounds like quite the responsibility.
Yeah, but it's looking after customers, I think, is really important. We have an awful lot of passionate fans out there who are very excited to own the brand. Just listening earlier to to Leslie talking about mental health, I think people are looking forward to the end of lockdown and getting back out there. And with a bit of luck, we'll have some decent weather to enjoy our staycations. But as that happens, we really need to make sure that our cars are safe to look after us and our families and get us where we want to go.
But the reason I wanted you on the show is I got a kind of vested interest. My son-in-law, who I adore, always has your Audi A6s on his second one. It's absolutely gorgeous. You guys used to lend me, and I was doing the flying eye, like R4s and R6s. Oh my god, RS4s, RS6s, absolute sensation. And I remember what has fascinated me about your brand, and then I'm going to come on to exactly why you're here, but what has fascinated me about your brand is this. I remember as a kid, it used to be your first, you came into the UK, no one had ever heard of Audi in Britain. It wasn't a well-known brand, right? And it would say, "We dare you." This was the advert. "We dare you to drive the Audi. We dare you," because it was meant to be so exciting. That was the first adverts I remember as a kid. And the other one was "Say howdy to the Audi," which I would like to have punched the copywriter in the face with that one. But I loved it. And with the "We dare you," and there was a car key, and it was very exciting. It was all in my dad's Reader's Digest magazine. So that, and I just watched this brand grow, and it's been, I got to be honest, as an advertising guy myself, you're one of the few brands that actually deliver what you say you're going to deliver. I hardly ever say that, but I think Audi's an exception.
Now, Stefan, unbelievably enough, you're actually here to talk about something quite serious.
Just setting out my story.
I'm all for reminiscing.
It's very nice when someone has a very nice, something
We're
good.
on borrowed time. Stefan's busy.
You can just hang about for a minute.
Right. Anyway, look, Stefan, you guys at Audi have been doing some very important research, and apparently it shows that us Brits were not very good at affording a car.
Well, let's be honest, Phil. Getting your car serviced isn't that exciting, is it? It's probably goes in the same basket as the dirty laundry. It's a necessity. It's something you have to do, but it isn't a great deal of fun. And the problem, because getting your car serviced isn't a lot of fun, people don't want to think about it. And of course, what that means is they don't plan for it and they don't budget for it. And that's been okay for the last 12 months because we've all sat at home, stayed home, doing our bit for the COVID fight. But as we start to see the sort of relaxation of those restrictions, then we need to get back on the road. We're going to get back out there. We're going to get moving again. And it's really important that people take care of their cars. Absolutely, it's the time to start thinking about that. What people tell us, though, is because they've not budgeted for it, they're really concerned about the costs. And an awful lot of people are worried that they're going to get ripped off. And I think it's important as an industry, really try to placate those fears.
It's true, because my last service bill on my little tiny car, because I in London, I just drive around the city, right? It was 500 quid. Mm-hmm. I had to have 2 new tires, except 500 quid. I was not... And that also forces me into a situation, Stefan. I'm thinking, well, bugger, no, I've got to keep the car at least an extra 12 months to amortize that 500 quid, possibly 2 years, because otherwise it's £500 down the loo, as opposed to £500 as an investment on my item.
That idea of spreading the cost, amortizing the cost, as you said, Russ, I think is really at the heart of everything that we're trying to do. We've recently launched a program called All In. All In gives customers 2 services, 2 MOTs, 2 years roadside assistance, 2 years warranty, all for £33 a month over 24 months. So for the average customer, they're going to save £1,200 over the 2-year period versus buying those elements independently. The benefit, the beauty of it is you don't have that £500 shock at the end of your service, because it's all been covered off in frankly what is probably the cost of most people's monthly coffee bill.
That is very true. That is very true. What are you finding with it? Are you finding that people are saying, "Oh, I'm just not going to get my car serviced," or you think people are saying, "Well, I must do that because it's safety if I'm carrying kids around, or loved ones, or myself." You want the car to be in tip-top condition. What's your view?
I think generally we see more people err on the side of caution. I think it's not really something you want to roll the dice with, the maintenance of your car, especially, as you say, if you're taking family and loved ones on holiday, then you want to make sure that you're safe and legal. So I think our experience has definitely been that more people are looking to get their car serviced and looking to get in good condition, so they get to where they want to go in the summer.
Yeah, it's yes, I think so. It's something. I don't think it's something you can, as you say, roll the dice. I don't think it's something you can roll the dice with at all. How badly hit has the COVID nightmare hit you as a company generally?
I think we've done very well. Obviously, when people couldn't go into the showrooms, there was a reduction in sales. But certainly what we've seen is that's really pent up demand. So the second the restrictions were lifted, we've seen people come rushing back. March was incredible. If I just look at our approved used car sales, they were up 31%. Which I just think shows the strength of demand. It's not that people don't want cars anymore. It's just that we've kind of had a little holiday from them. But we need to stay mobile. We want our independence. And as I say, with more people staycationing, then your car's really important. And we're definitely feeling that now.
I wonder if it's a kind of roaring 20s attitude that some people have been prophesying, that people are so sick to death of the last 18 months of this nonsense that they're going to go, oh, sod it. I've always wanted whatever it might be, an e-tron or something. I'm just going to go and get it because, God, if we get into lockdown again, I'm going to be so fed up. And I wonder if people are treating themselves a little bit.
I think there's definitely some of that. And again, to your previous speaker, I think there's an awful lot of people that have suffered over the last 12 months that want an escape, that want to, they want to enjoy themselves while they can. So definitely, I think we are seeing that roaring 20s attitude. I like that. I like that image.
Oh, there we go. You're going to have it.
Sadly, we don't. Sadly, the cars though aren't necessarily as attractive as the Roaring 20s. But let's not dwell on that too much. Having said that, I do have quite a lot of love for the Audi e-tron. That's quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what?
And we've launched the Q4 and the e-tron GT as well. So this year we've launched more electrified vehicles than we have internal combustion engines, and I really think it shows our. That we're at the forefront of progress into this new technology. I think it's something we're very, very proud of as a brand is the steps we're taking to move into that future of sustainable mobility.
I don't want to bore all our listeners all over the world, but I am a devout petrol head, as anyone will know. Always have been. And it came up earlier in the show. We're all being pushed towards electric vehicles. I get that. Let's just accept that as a given. Okay, so the tide isn't going to be changed. Are we going to be able to catch up? And I know Lee Durnford, who's highly placed in the engineering world, has answered it. But are we going to be able to deal with the demand for the electricity? I know that's not why you're here, but I don't get the chance to speak to someone of your caliber in the industry that often.
Yeah, I think that we are. There's an awful lot of work to do, and there's an awful lot of work to do by government and by industry to get us where we need to get to. But be assured, the investment is being made in order to facilitate the growth in electric vehicles and electrified mobility.
See, I'm surprised. Something happened recently which has surprised me. Comment if you wish. I'm near a huge Tesco's, one of those gigantic Tesco's, and they knocked down the complete garage. It was a very big petrol station. It's all gone. They've rebuilt it, but God knows what those cost. You'd know, I don't know, millions presumably. It's all there, all brand spanking new. No electric charging points. I was stunned. I thought at least they'd put in like one or two. Nothing. Where I am, there's none.
Yeah, we're seeing a huge growth in infrastructure. We're seeing a huge growth in infrastructure across the UK, and definitely we can see that more is coming. As to the decision your local Tesco's made, I don't know.
I know. I'm just very surprised because I would have thought there's a grab. I would have thought there's a grab accountable step.
I'm sorry.
No, I know that. I'm just thinking there was the ideal opportunity. It's a brand spanking new, enormous forecourt. I mean, huge.
It seems like an opportunity missed. It definitely seems like an opportunity missed for us.
And do you know what I do think, though, is a bit of an oversight, and I'm slightly surprised at, is as petrol stations become increasingly redundant, and they will do. I hate to say this. The truth is we've lost so many petrol stations now, as it is in London, but as they become less and less relevant, I can't help but wonder why it is that they don't think to install as standard some of the rapid charge points at petrol stations. It seems like such a perfect place to put them.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, Stefan, I'm making conversation. I'm not holding you accountable and asking you to answer.
I completely agree, Phil. I think it's, I think it's an idea to put to the petrol stations.
Now, look, in all seriousness, okay, obviously, sort of people do need to be realistic when it comes to the servicing of one's vehicle and looking after it. What sort of budget should people have in mind when it comes to servicing? Russ said before about how he spent £500 on his
But that was
vehicle,
including 2 brand new tyres.
I know, but I suppose what I'm trying to get at is just how much we should sort of keep at the back of our minds to maybe put aside each month or something.
Well, you could do that. You could definitely, and there's lots of budgeting advice online to talk you through, best practice in terms of budgeting. What I would say is that it's going to depend on the car, and it's going to depend on the driver and how far and how the car is driven. So there's no one size fits all answer. But what I would say is manufacturer backed service plans where you're bundling together all of the services in exchange for a large discount is definitely the best way to get great value for money in car servicing. And I'd recommend to your listeners, check out the manufacturer websites like audi.co.uk or your local dealers, and they'll be able to help you more with your servicing needs.
And one would assume that's also where they go for more information as well if they need it.
Now, before you go, Stefan, because I know you're on a very tight time schedule, I'm surprised you haven't asked me for my address, because how are you going to deliver the Audi R8 V10 outside my door this afternoon?
Yes.
The way Phil, he's laughing here. I'm being dead serious.
He's out of nerves, I'm sure. Actually, in all seriousness, I'm just being nosy here. With the perks of the job, do you get to sort of maybe try one or two of the vehicles out yourself?
I definitely do get to try our fantastic vehicles out. I have a very large family, lots of young children, and so I'm currently driving a Q7 as that seems to be the requirement to accommodate them all.
The size of Somerset, those.
If you have a Q7, one can only assume that you do have lots of children.
Yeah, I can't have any more. Let's put it that way.
We have to get a trailer and a caravan. I'm hoping for that. Lee, I'm just about I was reading that. Stefan Wyatt, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. I know you're very busy today, and we grabbed you because I wanted to chat about this. Anyway, thanks for all you do. Take care.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Keep well. Bye.
Bye.
There you go. Well, that was a bit of
what color do you think my R8 is going to be? Is it like silver, black? What do you think it's going
to?
I wouldn't mind. I'll tell you what I quite like is they've got a very fantastic orange color. I mean, it does scream, look at me, but if you've got an R8 with a V10 under the hood, who cares? I mean,
I think vehicles are at their smartest when they're in pure black. But then again, I would say that because I'm a goth in disguise.
You are a goth. I only think you don't have a spider tattooed on your neck, otherwise you'd be the perfect goth.
Now, you see, my problem is I see a red door and I want to paint it black.
Black. No trouble anymore. You know what I liked about that guy, Stefan? I know it's slightly off piece, but it was about money, and I wanted to link it into to Leslie Thomas as well. This is a guy who absolutely knew his stuff inside out, front ways, backwards, sideways. He knew his stuff. There was no flim-flam. Interesting. Ed Grossman, Russ, German cars, no thanks. Is that because you don't like them, or because of Hitler? It's a serious question, Ed. Serious question. Ramsey says, I pay £36 a month for my package for my Mercedes. Oh my God, how lovely. AMG E-Class. Yes, please. Gorgeous. Very reasonable. However, I do wonder if I need my own car given the mileage I do in lockdown. Well, I don't go anywhere. My mileage is fantastic. My car's going to be forever. I don't go anywhere, do I? Marvelous. And Linda Dave, no relation, or Grandma Linda, as we now like to call her. Lee, this is to Lee Durnford. Was your family, I hope he's well enough to be listening. Lee, was your family anything to do with the Durnfords who owned a school in Knightsbridge? It's such an unusual name. There you go. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting point Paul Claridge made about these people under 35. They're earning 60 to 80 grand. Jeez. And they can't get a mortgage. It's madness. Absolute freaking madness, this. You gone quiet. If I upset you.
Totally.
Okay, fair enough. Good. Paul Claridge also says, growing up, I was a big fan of rallying. Yep. To us Brits, the Ford Escort, yes, was the king of the road. Ford Escort. Oh. I had an Escort RS Turbo in white. Well, it only came in white. Then along came the Audi Quattro and changed the law of physics, didn't it? Just Just what a car that was. Gorgeous. Anywho, there we are. We don't want to get into a men's radio station. I promise it won't be a petrol head. I see.
Having said that, actually, it's funny how I suppose that even though we've obviously always said that the show is typically about men's mental health and well-being, I think it is quite nice to sort of once in a while venture into topics that are stereotypically of interest to men. I know that'll be very unpopular to say that in this day and age, and I'll have an awful lot of people very angry saying, well, hang on a second, I'm a woman and I'm very interested in cars. I've no doubt
50% of our audience are female, don't forget.
No doubt whatsoever, and I appreciate that and I recognize that. But one would assume that based on past stereotypes that indeed cars are a subject that come up once in a while, and it's just nice to have a little chat about something a bit different. So.
Ed Grossman says, "Oh, this is contentious, Russ. It's because they are German. You don't like Hamilton for taking money from Mercedes, but no, that's not why I don't like it. Not at all. I understand
him because he's a moron.
I don't like giving money. No, Ed. Let me just explain. I don't dislike him for that. Listen." Our shows, well, this one isn't, but many of our shows are sponsored. That is our business model. I'm perfectly open about that. You know, that's how we try to run the radio stations, with sponsorship. Of course we do. You know, the ABC of CBD sponsored by the Tincture Club, as an example. So I'm all for sponsorship. I get that. I don't have a problem with that at all. That's not my beef with him. Paul Andrews, I identify as a pot plant and I like cars too. So best not to generalize. Very interesting point from Ramsey. And I can really, really, really relate to this. Ramsey makes this point. Social distancing and antisocial behavior leads me away from public transport into my luxury bubble. Well, I don't have a luxury bubble, but I've got a little bubble. And when I'm in it, I'm in it. Doors are locked. I'm listening to an audio book. I'm in my own little world. It's interesting, that, isn't it? It's interesting. Do you feel like that, Phil?
I love the way that we all have our escapisms.
Yeah.
There's something quite nice that, for me, there's nothing better than sticking my earphones on, listening to a nice little bit of classical music, and just going for a walk in the local fields.
Lovely.
Love it. Pure escapism. Suddenly the rest of the world doesn't exist.
And very good for your very good for your mental. My de-stress is I put on my earphones. I've got the ones that go into your bone, because I don't like always having my ears blocked, especially with electric bikes and electric scooters and all that, because you don't hear it. And I'm not walking on the road, so you can drive your electric car. I'm not going to.
Sorry, hang on just a cotton picking second.
Yes.
You've got headphones or earphones that go into the bone.
Yeah, they don't go into my ear. They just rest behind my ear. They're terrific.
Well, have you got these earphones to have? I think we need to see these. Sure. I don't know. Unbelievable.
I will stop the camera.
Well, this is quite extraordinary. What, he'll stop the camera and suddenly I'll go on full screen. I can only apologize. I mean, that's not necessarily what you wanted for your Friday afternoon, is it? Anyway, just to point out, by the way, it is rapidly approaching 1 o'clock here. It's Men's Radio, The Daily Show, with somewhere Russ Kane, who's gone to get earphones, and me, Phil Dave. We are live until 2 o'clock this afternoon, and coming up at 1 o'clock this afternoon, we'll be meeting TJ Power. And TJ, just in case you've just joined us, is a young and passionate psychological well-being consultant. So we look forward to meeting him. So there you go. Russ now has...
These are them. So what you do is you just, I'm going to take my earphones out for a second.
Okay, well, you carry on talking.
You place them just behind your ears, if you can see that. And they go straight in. The sound is fantastic.
Look at that.
Sound is brilliant.
Very impressive. Well, who knew? I have to confess, I have not seen such. I work, as you may have gathered, with sound technology quite often, and I genuinely had no idea such things existed.
No, I tell you why I got these. Number one, they were dead cheap. Number two, they're rechargeable, so I recharge them afterwards. Number three, they're very, very light, incredibly comfortable to wear. And number four, they pop into my pocket. So when I finish being on the tube or the bus or whatever, pop them in my pocket. They're not taking up any room. at all. And now, the only thing before everyone gets excited, I listen solely to audiobooks. So for speech-based audio, excellent, absolutely excellent. For music, too tinny. So I would wear my much too tinny. You don't get the tone and the bass tone, and all this, especially my stuff, which is all heavy metal or Sinatra. There's nowhere in the middle. So it's all very heavy or jazz or indeed even Ray Gelato. So that's it with these. So great for speech, not good for music. Well, not up to mine. Anyway, I'm very excited. We were talking about getting cars and traveling, and look what has arrived, my new edition of...
Oh, Caravan Motorhome. Good Lord.
Yes, I joined the club, thanks to the lovely Nikki Nichols. And
would you want a motorhome?
Yes, my dream.
Wow.
My dream.
I had no idea. Good Lord.
No, we have talked about it, and I want to get... I can't afford it, but my dream would be to go out and get not a big RV. I don't want a big RV because they're impossible to park and maneuver, and all sorts of restrictions when you hit a town. But something like the VW California or the California Grand, something like that. Perfect.
And then I have to confess,
then you got flexibility. I don't have to worry about hotels. I don't have to worry about Airbnbs.
No, you just have to worry about parking.
Well,
you don't have to worry about parking.
No. Phil. They're no bigger than a van.
No. I know. I'm not talking about the size of the vehicle. I'm talking about parking. There are very few places that one can go to where you can just leave a vehicle indefinitely.
Oh, that no. I'd have to find that I wouldn't leave on the street. You're talking about 70 grand's worth of stuff.
Though I do have to say, the concept of a chemical toilet does freak me out.
Just go in a field. We got lent by VW. We got lent by VW, the California, and our trip was cut short for family reasons. But it was ridiculously clever, great, easy to drive. It was an absolute doddle. I was once lent a huge RV, which I took the twins out of. We had such a laugh. It was hilarious. It was enormous. And bloody thing was manual stick shift. I couldn't believe this thing, and right, it was huge. But we had so much fun in it. Paul Andrews, speakers. I've reverted to a headband with speakers in, designed so you can lay on the side on your pillow. Yes, without any discomfort. Really good. Then you turn it off. This little thing which goes into the sound goes through the bones behind your ears is very comfortable to sleep in. Very comfy. If you've got earphones, it's not good when you're going to sleep. That's a doddle. Very nice to wear. Yep. There we go.
Do you hear it subconsciously?
Yes, it's very odd. Well, I put the sleep timer on. So when I'm listening to an audiobook, I put a sleep timer on. If I've ever forgotten to do that, I go, what in the name of God is going on? Weird. Very weird thing, But
do you remember what you've heard?
It's funny you say that, because I think, well, no, bugger, it's gone on for half an hour. I better rewind. And then I'm thinking, this sounds familiar. So I think on a sort of tiny subconscious level, some of it sinks into what ludicrously passes as what's left of my brain. And but I'm happy to listen to it again. There's listening to audiobooks is my great pleasure. I always take the time and trouble. I track down the author if I really enjoyed it on Twitter, and always send them a message. And I would say 99% come back and say we have nice conversations about it. Very nice conversations about it. It's lovely. I think if someone's gone to the time and trouble to do that and produce a wonderful product, a wonderful book, it's nice to. If I really like the person doing the narration, I'll track them down too and congratulate them on doing a nice job. I think it's just a nice thing to do. And it's meant from the heart. I mean it, I don't want anything from them. I think people should know that. It's a little bit of praise and encouragement never goes astray, does it?
Well, you say that, but it's amazing the number of people who are very quick to complain about stuff and not necessarily give credit where credit's due.
I'm getting all the news feeds in, by the way, in the bottom of my screen. Matt Hancock is toast. He is. There's now calls for an MI5 investigation. why MI5? Come on, for God's sake. And he's apologized, so there's no more. We don't have to have allegedly. He's apologized. A little bit late.
Okay, but look, might I stress, by the way, that Matt Hancock has taken ownership of his mistake. Because if there was one thing that struck me about Dominic Cummings' saga is that not once did he apologize.
What a horrible guy. Sort of guy you just know would be horrible to meet. You get on with him for like 3 minutes before he started having a row.
Not quite. Let us hope, though, that the person that we're about to meet is not the sort of person that one would spend 3 minutes in the company of and then have a row with.
We don't
because
know.
TJ Power is it? Oh, have you met? I see.
It's very nice. It's very nice.
Well, thank goodness for that.
I haven't met him personally because I don't meet anybody personally. I meet my dog.
Right. Well, TJ Power is a psychological well-being consultant, and I think that we could do with a little bit of well-being and consultancy. As a result of it, TJ Power, very good afternoon, and welcome to Men's Radio.
Hello, gentlemen.
Look at you with your groovy haircut. Look at that.
Is that a groovy haircut? That's what I want to hear.
What's going on with that? TJ, the big question
the mere fact that he has called it groovy should tell you everything you need to know. Shut your face.
Shut up. Just shut your face, Alvin Stardust, with your Alvin Stardust gloves. TJ, the first question is important. Can you speed up my single stroke roll?
No. What do I know?
Okay, moving on. Clearly not. I've been practicing for months, so I can't get any faster. Forget it. Right. Now then. TJ, welcome along. It's a nice
Thank
room.
you for having me.
We are so disgustingly nosy here, Phil and I. And all our
speak for yourself. You're the one who's now talking about the decor.
It looks lovely. I'm really liking. I like the whole thing. So we get to see everybody's homes, which is
you get to see my home.
It looks. I love the floor.
I'm pretty happy with the floor as well.
No, the floor, great. And also, is that an antique desk at the back? What is that?
Antique. It looks like a bar.
Really nice.
It's some kind of bar desk item. I don't know how antique it is. However,
we like it. We like it.
It looks nice in the background.
It looks great, and thank you for.
It makes a change from a bookshelf. I was going to say
bookshelves to show everybody. Oh, I'm so intellectual. I've got a book. Yeah, right. Okay. Now
I have a couple books. They're not in here.
It's nice to talk to you properly because I managed to screw up, and your dad, your father thought. We had a complete cross communication. I was trying to get hold of you, and I ended up with your father, who was also charming, but didn't want to talk to me because, quite rightly, we didn't have an appointment, and we had nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about at all. Ridiculous. Anyway, tell us about yourself.
Tell us about me. So I am 24 years old, and I'm living in Farnham, like an hour south of London, and I'm absolutely loving this space of working in mental health, working with a number of different organizations, working with quite a number of people, teaching them about, hopefully, a pretty innovative perspective of how we can navigate this experience that we're having in our minds.
I'm going to jump in here, if I may. You're 24, and I know people are going to be like, wait a minute, what the hell does he know about life? Is the guy But we were talking about nature and nurture earlier in the program. I've had the pleasure of speaking to your mum online. We just had an introductory chat. We ended up talking for an hour and a half. Your father, I mean, your parents and your family, they're very interesting people, and I really do think when it comes to nature and nurture, probably in your case, it's both.
Yeah,
does that make any degree of sense? It's in your DNA, it's in your genes, and you've taken to it as well. I think
that does make sense. I think it is a concoction. I had a lot of interesting experiences in my life growing up that definitely shaped my perspective of mental health and how we can navigate challenging moments that come up. And also had some fantastic guidance from that team of people, my mum and dad. And genetics, I think, are playing a huge factor. It's always hard to understand the genetic influence.
Now, for those of us who don't necessarily know your background, are you prepared to maybe divulge a little bit as to some of those experiences you speak of that has ultimately led you down this path of mental health?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was younger, I early on in my life, sort of 6, 7 years old, began experiencing some OCD tendencies, and I began going in that direction of experiencing some OCD, which is quite overwhelming for your mind when you go into those analytical states of your experience. My mum was very good with it. She guided me through that process really well and had some people speak with me, but it definitely made me aware quite early on that the mind can be a complicated place to be in. And I kind of went through life, and then when I was about 16, we had quite a very traumatic experience, losing my beautiful cousin in her 20s to cancer. And that was a really challenging experience for us as a family. And through those years, we unfortunately lost like a number of different people that were very close to us. And it made me very aware that tough times come. And when I was communicating with all of my family, I found, despite being the youngest, I kind of had a innate understanding and desire to guide people with the experience they were having. And at that moment, I was studying psychology and considering it for university, and really found that this is where my brain and body seems to feel pretty aligned. And
you won't mind me saying so, but as you were growing up, you had some very good times because your parents had a brilliant, successful business.
Beautiful times.
All the wheels fell off.
They did.
And it was the absolute opposite. So you went from really great to really terrible. And I think that's very, I'm not going to say character building. I loathe that phrase. It's not something, but it's very life informing, isn't it? Gives you a huge perspective that things can be good, and 2 minutes later, things can be absolutely ghastly. It's how you deal with the hands you're dealt.
100%.
I think it's how you deal with the. You're going to be dealt the cards. You got no say over that. It's how you play them, which has always been how I've got myself through life.
You see, I do think another problem though is the way that we're all built up to deal with either good or bad situations, and it seems like so often we're just sort of left wandering in the wilderness. No one actually tries to prepare one for what could be deemed a nasty situation in their life. For example, I don't think that we are, we've spoken about it on this very program before, I don't think we're terribly good at talking about the concept of death in this world. You know, the awful truth is,
agree with that.
Yeah, the awful truth is that, you know, we know it's going to happen. People jest and say that there are only two things that are certain in life: death and taxes. Ha ha, isn't it hilarious after 1,000 times? But the point is that actually it is going to happen to all of us. And just because it happens, yes, it will be very sad and very painful for some more than others, but it's not necessarily a bad thing either. It just has to happen, whether we like it or not. And yet we've still got this wacky notion that we're all going to live forever, and we don't really talk about it. I just find it really odd how it's just so taboo.
Yeah, I agree. It is a very taboo conversation. And I think normalizing it and being a bit more connected to that experience of life is really valuable. For much of human history, hundreds of thousands of years wandering around out there, death was something that we were really a part of. There wasn't hospitals that people would go and disappear away to. Like, you would be with your family in those moments. And we were much more connected and understanding of what that experience entailed. And yeah, I think there would be great value if it was more of an open conversation. It definitely could guide those that are grieving and going through those processes in a far better way.
Yes, it's another. So, tell us what you. I know your business, but tell us what you actually, do. Like, the mechanics of it, if you like.
Definitely. Would it be of value for me to kind of share a bit of the journey coming up?
Sure, absolutely.
To give a bit of context.
Please do.
Yep. So I basically went down to Exeter University to begin my study of psychology, and really connected with that topic, and really connected with the kind of psychology and health and neuroscience. I loved those fields, and I continued into a master's there, continuing to kind of understand this area. And fortunately, during the master's, I became a lecturer down at Exeter University and began developing a third year module that I was teaching mindfulness and mental health and things like that. And at that point, I discovered out of nowhere that I quite like talking about this topic, and doors began to open to begin speaking at a number of different universities across the world. And then COVID hit at that point, and I thought, what could I kind of create? Could I create some kind of innovative idea for how people are navigating this mental health conversation? The world is going pretty quickly these days. Technology is coming at us pretty fast, and our entire kind of living circumstances is changing incredibly quickly. So I wanted to have something that was meeting people exactly where they were at. And at that point, I was offered the chance to build a mental health program to support young women that were navigating cancer. So last summer, I really investigated that space and built this first iteration of this journey I have. And still an audience I work very closely with, but I basically started adapting this model and teaching it across quite a number of organizations. And recently, which is very exciting, I've begun a pilot for a partnership with the NHS in integrated care, where we're going to be taking a number of staff through this process and seeing the impact that it can have on the way they work and how they're navigating their mental health in general. So that's what I'm up to.
The bottom line is that you're quite underinvested in all of this, really, and you haven't really bothered that much with it. That's what.
Yeah, I've basically just been chilling out.
He's just a lazy bastard. I don't know why he's on the show. What else he done? He's 24. He's sat in his arse the whole time. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. My God. Here's something, TJ, that's very pertinent to what you were just saying. Glassy Amanda, who's in the therapeutic community herself, we lost our beloved stepfather very suddenly 6 weeks ago. Very sorry, Glassy Amanda. Sorry about that. It was my condolences, and Phil's as well. It was a complete shock for us, left behind, and we're still traumatized. For him, a peaceful passing. You know, it's always the way, isn't it, TJ? As Phil and I have discussed, that when somebody passes for them, it's done. It's over. It's over. You know, that's it. And everybody left behind, they've got to struggle on, and it's tough.
It is really tough. Yeah. And I think in those moments we have kind of built a society whereby when we're experiencing these difficulties and we're feeling overwhelmed or worried in ourselves, we like to kind of suppress this experience and not really communicate it and kind of just deal with it and hold it within. And I think the more you allow yourself to actually experience the difficulty and allow your mind and body to actually acknowledge that there's a lot of pain going on, I think the speed in which you can travel through that difficulty really changes, instead of leaving it suppressed in you for long periods of time. So to the guidance of that individual, I would really say, allow you and your family to feel the emotional pain from that experience, communicate it with one another, because it will definitely help the process.
See, it's the British thing. It'll stiff upper lip, you know, can't show emotion, all that nonsense.
I'm trying to break the stiff upper lip.
Because it's useless. You don't want to be a crying wreck and just, you know, a complete mess the whole time and use it as a crutch for the rest of your life. But you should allow yourself to grieve.
100%. It's a part of the human experience.
If you've got, you know, the best example I was ever given, TJ, was this. Oddly enough, it was an interior designer of all people who said this to me. You know, if you've got an issue like this, it could be grief, depression, you know, something you haven't dealt with. If you went to Sainsbury's and got a chicken, and you thought, oh, I don't know where the hell to put the chicken, and you put it in a drawer somewhere in the house, right? Mm-hmm. For a while, it would be okay, and then eventually, as it was rotting, the smell of the chicken would permeate through the entire house. In other words, if you've got something that you haven't dealt with, it will permeate through the rest of your life. There's no two ways about it. I firmly, you know, I think you've got an issue, look at it and try and work out why you've got it.
That's a very, very good analogy. That completely describes what takes place. And I think that's one of the reasons we're seeing mental health become more and more difficult in our society, especially amongst younger individuals, is that often the mind or the body, whatever it will be, will send you a message when something isn't right, when it's grieving, when it's in pain, when it's upset. And in human history, you just had to deal with the fact you're experiencing that difficulty. Whereas nowadays, if you feel uncomfortable in your experience and you're feeling unhappy or sad, whatever it may be, we have these lovely portals of distraction that can come into our hand at any moment and enable us to completely just take our mind into another world. And in the process of doing that, we're just constantly suppressing any of the difficulty, which leads it to persistently re-arising. So yeah, I think that.
Yeah, and of course that's actually worse. Of course, the portals that you speak of course, unfortunately, are also responsible in their own unique and beautiful way for fueling some sort of anxieties and mental health problems as well. So actually, what's worse is you're not only parking what you need to deal with, you're adding to it to add insult to injury.
Yeah,
100%. I think this is a huge conversation, the technology, the phones, the social media, and our mental health. And I have a fantastic intern working with me at the moment, and we're kind of creating a process whereby young people are going to gain a bit more insight into how the phones may be affecting them and provide them with some guidance, because it's like a brand new social experiment, young people having access to all of these things. And I think there's loads of value in the tech. I'm definitely not against the tech, but I think we definitely need to collectively understand how to use it in a way that's going to support us and not create further.
Forgive me for saying this, because this is very cliche, but Phil's 34, I'm 102, you're 24. It is fantastically interesting. There's a 24-year-old with all your accomplishments, you look at it that way. Now, our twins, who are 23, won't go near social media, won't touch it. Never.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Don't want anything to do with it. In fact, one of them even got rid of the smartphone and got like a brick phone. He did not want any distractions. He just wanted to get on with his life. And he's studying his work. Yeah, they did no interest in it at all. Probably because I'm always on it. So if I'm doing it, it must be crap. So therefore, you don't want to do what your dad does. But
there's definitely a balance to strike with it.
Yeah, sure. But eventually, because of work, he had to get a smartphone, but he will only use it literally for, well, never go on social. They're never on social media.
The problem is as well, of course, is that the technology companies will never help you to strike that balance, because, of course, it's in their best interest for one to be attached to said device or said site or said app all the time. If they had their ways, that's what they need and want from us. So it's not going to befall on them. It's down to the individual to realize what that balance is. And unfortunately, I don't think there's much guidance out there to recognize what that balance is.
I agree, Phil. And one of my big missions in building that conversation around the technology's impact is, if that conversation got really big in the world and it was really recognized that the phones were creating difficulty for us, it would eventually, if there was a big enough conversation around it, create motivation within those organizations to have to start considering how are the phones set, start implementing strategies to make it a bit more supportive to the mind. You see iPhones now including things like screen time and downtime and sleep settings, and in their new software they're going to have a focus setting to try and make it a bit less distracting. And I think the more it's talked about, the more it's recognized, the more we'll begin to see transformation in how these devices are built, as well as individually
but
learning.
TJ, I hate to say it, bearing in mind I'm a geek, I'm afraid, I hate to tell you that sort of part of my other work is that I do sort of technology and look into it as a sort of work thing. And I'm afraid that those features that you speak of, sadly, are just tokens. They're not actual serious tools that will help people, because let's be realistic. We all get those screen reports on our little phones, on our smartphones saying, did you know you spent this amount of time on the phone this week? What happens to them? We close them. We get rid of them because they're in the way. They're getting in the way of whatever it is we're doing. So yes, they exist. And the technology companies will turn around and say, well, look, aren't we wonderful? We are doing something to try and help you to raise attention to what you are actually doing with your device and how long you're spending on it. They don't care. Seriously. And I'm sorry, but it's not in their interest to care.
Really,
this is not me having a go at them.
No, to me, it's like being a crack dealer and going, hey, I couldn't notice you're addicted to crack. Oh, no. I'll tell you what I'll do. Here's a bottle of water. And would you like some more crack? They're designed to be addictive. You need that endorphin hit the whole time. They're set up by brilliant people who are also completely ruthless. I get it. It's their business model.
I agree. We're going to have to figure out a way to use them, though, because I recently did a 10-day fast from my phone about 2 weeks ago. So I didn't go on a phone to try and see what would happen without being able to see my business, social media, all of these different aspects. And just to try and stimulate some new ideas and see what it's like when you're disconnected. And it definitely made me realize that the tech is now so essential, because I was so like disadvantaged during this time, not even having things like Google Maps or being able to talk to people or all these different aspects where a phone is now essential for operating in our world. And it made me think, going down the path of trying to get people off them is just not going to succeed. So collectively understanding how to use them is important.
It's too late. The genie is out the bottle, TJ. You can't put it back. I've done stuff
100%.
thinking, right, I've got to get on with a particular project, no time for anything. And you think, well, wait a minute, my business is run on, a lot of it is run on Twitter. I'm doing the social media for the radio. I'm boosting up other broadcasters on the shows and stuff like that. If I step away, it'll just stop immediately, just bang, grind to a halt. You can't do it. It's impossible.
You can't. And the tech's only going to go faster. There's going to be more devices. So we got to start figuring out how to use them in the best way possible. Otherwise, it's just going to be pretty overwhelming.
I funny enough, I wrote a sentence. Oh, no, I didn't. I wrote an article. I'm going mad. I wrote an article for David Wimble. For his newspaper, apparently become a columnist all of a sudden, not a communist, a columnist. And I said it's okay as long as the machines serve us, and we don't serve the machines. And I think it's gone completely the other way. That somehow Skynet became self-aware. It's we are serving them. Now, Glassy Amanda, his praise indeed. Glassy Amanda, going back to grief and what you were saying, thank you. My family don't show emotion, but I do privately. It's important for physical health as well. Damn right it is. Now, listen to this. Is there a link for this fantastic guest, please? I always refer my clients to many of the guests you have on.
Oh, there you go. That's wonderful.
It doesn't get better than that, TJ.
Thank you very much.
As life gets.
That is it. That's right at the peak.
So Glassy Amanda will be recommending all two of her clients to you.
Stop me. See, now you've gone buggered it up. Take no notice of him. He's tired. He's tired.
Thank you, Glassy Amanda.
He's tired and he's emotional. He's sitting in a toilet on top of a skyscraper. He's not happy. Right. How do people get hold of you? You're not going yet. How do people get hold of you?
I think the best way would probably be Instagram, because you have the whole DM conversation in there, so I can talk to people. So if you search TJ Power on Instagram, I'm right there.
See, it's one thing I don't do. Help me out here. I got no more time. I've literally got no more time. I stepped away from my desk at 10:30 last night only because I was dropping.
In that case, Russ, it's been very nice to see you. There you go. He says he's got no more time. There's nothing we could do about it. It's not our fault.
You're joking.
No, anyway.
Do you see why I hate him? Why I just hate him?
I see.
So TJ, the thing is, yeah, but true, harsh but fair, I think.
Off he goes.
He's such an ass. What I was going to say to you is this: I don't have time. If I could finish this, go away with your big picture. Thank you. Is that I don't do Instagram. I've got enough with everything else. I don't want to add. And then everyone says, you've got to do Instagram. Got to do Instagram. I can't add it. I can't add it to my working day. I can't add it. I just haven't got the time to do it.
I think as long as you have a medium in which you're communicating with your audience, it doesn't matter particularly which one. I like Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Those are the ones I seem to connect with. I think those can be good. I think there's also a lot of complications on these social media platforms. We have to be pretty mindful of how we use them and how much time we spend.
It's a weird thing about LinkedIn. I've got 7,000 people on LinkedIn. I don't know who the hell they are. I've got 7,000.
That's not bad.
I don't think it's done. I'm not sure it's done me any good whatsoever. I mean, I don't often look at it. And yesterday, I nearly missed a Zoom call because they were communicating. It was an important thing. Communicating with me through LinkedIn. Pick up the phone. Send me a text. Send me an email, for God's sake. I'll see those. Don't send a blooming message on LinkedIn, which could get lost so easily.
Fantastic. Glassy's linking in on LinkedIn. That's awesome. Yeah. LinkedIn's one of my main avenues. That's where all of my work kind of comes through that platform. Which
as we head to the bottom,
that's amazing, because I have to say, hand on heart, I've never got any work from LinkedIn.
I've never got any work whatsoever. No, I just
obviously using it incorrectly.
I post a lot of videos about this space, so those connect with people on LinkedIn and Instagram and stuff. So that can be a good use of those platforms.
Whoa, I never thought of that. That's because I'm stupid. Now, what I want to ask you a specific question. You go into the NHS, you got this link with the NHS, unbelievable achievement, bravo.
Thank you.
Rip your arm pop for that, but there we go. Very clever, because it's damn hard. What are you saying? Are you telling the staff, let's call them staff, how to deal with cancer patients, or how to emotionally get through the process? What do you do?
Yeah, so in terms of this program, I don't exclusively work in the cancer space. So that's one aspect of my teaching. The majority of my teaching is with any individuals, and largely just staff in organizations or soon to be staff in the NHS. And this sample of the NHS, there's kind of 1.2 thousand. It's a part of the integrated care 24 aspect across Norfolk and Suffolk and things like that. There's a real variety, clinicians, 111 callers, those kind of things. And during this pilot, they're basically going to be going through this 6-week journey I've built, which is a way in which people understand how pretty much a human is evolutionarily designed to navigate our planet and understand very clearly how the modern world is affecting us, so that you can be empowered with some skills to rebalance this system a bit. It's no surprise that now we're living behind computers, spending our times on phones, on social media, that now mental health has got even worse. Like, these things are connected. Re-understanding how a human should behave, I think, is really powerful.
I know what Phil's thinking. I'm going to do my Mystic Meg. Phil is sitting there, same as I'm sitting, going, how the hell is this guy so smart? And we're both sitting there. So I know Phil. I know Phil's face too well. And Phil's thinking, why the hell wasn't I like this at 24? What the hell's going on with this guy?
In my defense, I think you'll find in my defense, I did start work at the age of 18. So I actually know it was younger, actually, technically speaking. I started at the age of 16. But it's not the point. Make no mistake. It's just very, very impressive. And I can't think of any way to say it without sounding like I'm patronizing you, which is not meant to be the case at all. So it's just brilliant. There's no other words to describe it. And why the heck you're not running the NHS, I don't know.
Well, there's a career in front of me. I don't know where it's going to go, but hopefully it's going to be.
Are you excited? You seem a very enthusiastic sort of person. Are you excited by what you do?
Russ, I actually can't even put into words how excited I am by working in this space.
We'll try you on radio. So.
This is magic to me. I cannot believe that I've found something I feel so aligned with, and it's literally not even requiring motivation or like, oh, I've got to get out of bed and I've got to go sit at my computer. I feel like my system is just saying, like, you found something that could help people, and it's just like, keep going and keep innovating the idea, keep figuring it out to hopefully reach many, many people with time.
Did you always know that this was a field you were going to go into, or was there sort of this a light bulb moment, as it were?
There was a bit of a light bulb moment, because I was looking at two fields. I was actually looking at this performance sort of sports psychology field, and I'd become very interested in the mental health of athletes, because I always noticed changes in performance when they are going through some kind of psychological difficulty in their lives. And I became very interested in, could I help athletes to understand and improve their mental health, to improve how they were performing? And initially I was actually looking at going out to do a PhD at Toronto University in that space. And I went out there and I thought that could be one of my big missions. And I had this huge realization when I was out there that it's not kind of necessarily just the athletes I wanted to connect with. I really wanted to connect with a lot of people from all walks of life. And that was I was on the plane home from Toronto, and I thought, okay, now I know exactly where I'm going. And then it's just been full steam ahead for the last sort of 2.5 years.
Wow.
Incredible. Very good. Very, very good.
But it's so true. In whatever field you might be, if you have a passion for it, you're going to do better than people who are just going through the motions of, I know not everybody is that lucky. Sometimes you have to be the shelf stacker in a supermarket, or you have to work behind a counter in a building. That's what you have to do. We've all got to do
but
stuff.
I point out that it doesn't mean you can't be enthusiastic about those particular careers.
True.
I get that. Do you know the happiest person I ever... people, we were talking about happiness, and this is a constant theme on the radio. And the happiest person I ever met, and this
Jeremy
I've
Corbyn.
never forgotten this. What are you gonna say?
Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, Jezza and I. Why are you going to ruin my mood? You just like prick my balloon. I was in a good mood. You're going to bring him up.
You'd never get me in one of them.
So anyway, where are we? Yeah, the
Who's this happy man, Russ?
I tell you who it was. I used to do a lot of corporate writing, and I did a very a corporate video training film for Sunlight Laundries. Sunlight Laundries. And the guy who was the delivery driver, I went out with him to see how it worked, obviously to do all my research before writing the training film. I've never known anyone so happy in their work ever. This is what he did, and he loved it. And he wasn't an idiot or anything. He was so enthusiastic. He wanted to be the best laundry delivery guy in, I can't remember, it was on the coast or somewhere, it was many years ago. And he loved it. He looked forward to work, and I've never seen anybody so satisfied with their lot
until today. TJ, thank you so much. Seriously, you are an incredible sort of chap, and we're very grateful to your time. So of course, it wouldn't be right, sort of having now spoken to you, to not put you on the spot and say perhaps you'll come back on a future program and have a chat with us all over again.
I would love to. Anyone that's creating more conversation around this mental health is heaven in my eyes. So
well, thank you.
I look forward to that day whenever it comes, and very grateful.
We're getting you back. You've been a big hit, and you're a very impressive guy for any.
I suspect I'm about to.
You're a very impressive guy. Full stop.
I've got a horrible feeling I'm about to learn how to spell P45, and that before long you may well replace. But anyway, thank you very much indeed, TJ. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Russ and Phil. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good grief.
Do you know what? Every now and then you come across somebody, you think, Jesus, they just got it.
No, I know. That's what Chantel's like. Hi, Chantel.
Speaking of just got it, just got in, more like it.
I don't think just got in.
Chantal, welcome
Hello.
to New York. New York, so good they named it once. How are you?
Actually, really good.
You look ridiculously bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
No, I'm feeling great. I don't
Hello.
get jet lag going this way around the world. I get jet lag going back towards London.
Yes.
If I go from west.
It's the thought of coming back to London, Chantal. That's what makes you sleepy.
No, I'm so homesick. I can't wait to get home.
Oh, really? How long are you still away for?
I think I'll be away for at least another couple of weeks, and then I think I get my release papers and I can head back to the UK.
You've done your servitude.
It's been a heck of a project for you. I mean,
It's been a long project.
How long are you in New York for?
So, well, I was due to go down to Denver tomorrow, but I think that's been delayed a little. So I'm going to be in New York, I think, until Tuesday or Wednesday.
But
New York is
planes yet.
suddenly come alive.
Is it back? Ooh.
Yeah, it's back. New York is back. Trying to get a table in a restaurant has become really difficult again. So
Did
when
you
I was
mention
here
Phil's
about...
name?
I'll try that. I'll try that
I'm
later.
a friend of Phil Dave's. When you find yourself back on the street,
Well, don't tell them that and Sarah Beth. So, oh my God, did I tell you my Sarah Beth story?
No, tell me your Sarah Beth story.
Okay, with the quickest possible summary I could come up with, 5 of us went there for breakfast for one of my parents' anniversary. We sent them off there for a surprise. We met them in Sarah Beth as a surprise. Yeah. They didn't know that my sister, my brother-in-law, and I were going to be in New York at the same time as them. So I know they were pretty shocked. Anyway, so we went there as a surprise for them. 5 of us had breakfast at Sarah Beth's that morning. And let's just say that I wasn't anticipating needing a mortgage for the bill, which I picked up. Now, which is fine. Don't worry. It's a special occasion. I didn't care. But then they went and had the nerve to ask how much tip that I would like to add. And they started off with 20%. Started off at 20%.
That's the American standard.
I'm sure it is. But when I turned...
It is.
I know it is, but it doesn't mean it's right. And then when I turned around to them and I said, look, no offense whatsoever. I've never needed a mortgage for breakfast before. I'm not paying as much as 20% service. I'm very happy to give 10%, which is the standard in London. Oh my God, you'd think I'd killed somebody.
Wow.
Anyway. Right,
now, Chantal, moving away from
say hi.
Moving away from Miser Dave over there. Chantal, this is a question for you as a TV expert. It's a question from Ramsey.
Yep.
Hi, Chantal. Any truth in the rumours that Matt Hancock is going to be a late entrant to Love Island?
Very good. Very good. I love it.
That's the gag of the day.
There is an image for you, if ever
I have been. Yeah, I've been following the British news this morning.
Oh
and
my God!
As you said,
could it be
missed the day?
Could it be any worse?
No. And the problem is that, of course, the Department of Health denied it. And then, of course, Matt has, admirably, as Phil said, come out and fessed up. But actually, he shouldn't have got his department to deny it first, because that was pretty darn stupid. So I think he's toast. As you said, Russ, I think he's toast.
But you say that. But look at what happened with Dominic Cummings. He didn't own it, and he managed to cling on a bit longer.
But he wasn't a minister. He wasn't a minister.
He may as well have been. You're right, he wasn't. But let's be honest, he was pretty much second in command of the country. But anyway, look, all the same, let's see what happens with Matt Hancock. But far more interesting than that, it's time. Oh, yes. Hang on to your seats. This is where, by the way, Chantal, we can only apologize.
You're going to be so impressed with
spared. No expense spared with the sound system. Are you ready for this? This is incredible.
I'm waiting.
Time for this. Oh, yes, we love TV indeed, and we love it nothing more than when Chantal joins us on a Friday to talk all things TV.
Somewhere in the world.
Wherever she happens to be. And we do have to point out, actually, that no matter where you have been in the world for the last few weeks, you've always made the time for us, which we appreciate so much. Not least of all because it saves Russ and I having to talk to each other for another half hour.
Well, it's nice for me too, let me tell you.
This is good news,
you guys more than
Chantal, good news. Matt Hancock's lover is friends with his wife. I think that should be past tense. Let's just come up. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's all a bit of a mess.
Oh dear God.
Not great. Anyway, we'll see. But yes, he may be appearing on our TV screens very soon in Dancing with the Stars or something similar, no doubt. And somebody will be writing a fabulous drama about it right this very minute.
Great. I think I could do that. I'd love it.
Yeah.
That would be great. Anyway, sorry. And people are saying thank you. Ramsey's coming back. Yes, I love Clark. You remember you recommended Clarkson's The Farm or On the Farm with Clarkson?
Absolutely.
I've watched some of it. Hilarious and brilliant. Ramsey's saying loved Clarkson's Farm. Everyone has seen it, has agreed. Like Ricky Gervais with Afterlife. That was you as well.
Oh, I love that.
Etc. Etc. There we go.
Yeah.
And Andy Lucas saw the Aldi version where she saw Clark's son's farm.
I think we've got into a parallel universe this Friday afternoon.
I'm on it. I'm telling you.
I've got huge jet lag, obviously.
So have I. I haven't even been anywhere. Anyway.
You haven't been anywhere since 2:30 this morning. Right. Pause. Chantal,
delirious now.
What have you got? Yes. Talk us through.
Well, actually, we're beginning to get to that stage where people who did write dramas during lockdown, and these dramas are now beginning to appear on screen, which is sort of quite interesting. And Sharon Horgan, who is a writer I absolutely adore, as well as being a great comedy performer, has written something called Together, which actually feels more like a play. It's a two-hander. It's on the BBC, a two-hander between Sharon Horgan and James McAvoy, lovely Scottish actor James McAvoy. And the two of them are a couple. They have a 10-year-old son, and they go into lockdown really at what they think is the end of their marriage. Their relationship is over. This all sounds like a bit of a downer, but actually stay with it because it's very well acted. They go through all the trials and tribulations of really not wanting to speak to each other at all. And lockdown looks as though it's going to be a ghastly experience for both of them. And they start, as things do, with the differences being piled high. And over the course of lockdown, the differences get whittled away. And the story ends up in a great place. I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens, but it's very, very well written. The two of them talk to the camera and break the fourth wall, as well as talking to each other. It's a phenomenal performance between the two of them. I have no idea how they shot it, because they either must have incredible memories or they must have ad-libbed it, because it feels like an ad-libbed conversation.
Huh.
Definitely worth watching. It's a 90-minuter. It was originally on BBC Two. Within the last week, it's been on BBC Two. So it's there sitting on the iPlayer, and actually is a really interesting piece. She plays a sort of hippie, middle-class liberal. He's a working-class Scot. And their differences seem enormous at the beginning, but stick with it. It's absolutely worth 90 minutes sitting on the sofa on.
And the name again?
It's called Together.
I'm going mad. It's not James McAvoy who played Charles Xavier in X-Men. Have I got the right guy? Have I got completely the wrong guy?
James McAvoy, who did the Last King of Scotland. He did.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
He came to a variety gig once. He was charming.
I believe he rose to fame through the Channel 4 series Shameless, because that's where I first remember seeing him. He may well have been in something else before. No, honestly, he may well have been in something else other than. But he definitely sort of started off life as he played a very sort of, he actually played quite a minor character, would you believe, in Shameless. He played the boyfriend of the neighbour. But
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, oh no, he's extraordinary. It's when I first remember seeing him.
No, Glassy Amanda's saying you're absolutely right. I'll tell you something, Chantal. You've reminded everybody. If you've never seen The Last King of Scotland,
it's brilliant.
What a great film! What a great film!
And I can't quite remember. It's a true story. It is about an African dictator.
Yeah.
You'll
played
have
by
to
Forrest Whitaker, isn't it?
Forrest Whitaker, exactly. Yeah. And somebody is an advisor who goes over from Scotland, played by the James McAvoy character. It's an extraordinary story. So I'll look it up and find out where it is the next week. So I can tell you more about it.
Sorry, Glassy Amanda's just said he then married his girlfriend in Shameless, top actress herself. And she says Anne-Marie someone. It's actually Anne-Marie Duff is who you're thinking of.
Absolutely.
But gracious me. Wow, didn't know that.
Oh. Well,
you mentioned, by the way, lots of thanks again coming into you, because I don't want you to think your work just goes out to nowhere. People make blooming notes, including myself. Time, everybody was loving that. That was a great recommendation.
Yeah.
And also The Pact, which I think you mentioned.
I did. That was about the women in the brewery in Wales.
Oh, yes. They cover up whatever it is.
They cover up whatever it is.
Whatever.
By the way, just breaking news for you, according to our friends at Sky, just in case you thought that Matt Hancock was, quote, toast, Prime Minister accepts Hancock's apology for breaking social distancing rules and considers the matter closed. There we go.
This is ridiculous.
There we are. Next. Next scandal, please.
So we have been. You see, I'm sorry. I know that's why you're here, but your face, Chantal's said it all. We have been so good for 18 months. For God's sake.
I know. I mean, from the health.
I've given up now. Sod it. I've given up now.
I mean, I'm not going to sort of throw stones, because I haven't behaved perfectly myself in certain instances where lockdown was set in motion. So I sort of jiggled it a bit around the edges for my own personal reasons, which was clearly not good. But I am not an elected official. I am not a minister of the government.
You are in our hearts. In our hearts.
Oh, bless you.
You are. You are Minister of Culture.
And it's true. I
just made that up.
That's good. If you were to misbehave, it would bring dreadful ill repute to this particular program.
Of course. Yeah.
You could never imagine Russ and I doing anything like that.
No.
This is the part.
Move on.
This is the part, Chantal, where you say,
"This is a woman with an OBE, for Christ's sake. Just move on. Move on." No.
I think so. Anyway, so watch Together. It was directed, in fact, by Stephen Daldry, who did The Crown. We all love The Crown. And Billy Elliot, of course, Stephen Daldry.
May I just say, I'm so sorry. Have you seen? They've now got no joke. They've got a disclaimer on The Crown.
No, I haven't.
They've put up. This is the world we have created.
This is our truth.
Well, he's just arrived, by the way. Harry, if you're feeling like there's a lot of woke in the air, Harry's just arrived at Heathrow. She hasn't. Anyway,
what a terrible shame.
It is a loss to everybody. Now, here's the thing. Moving on. They've actually put a disclaimer on the Crown saying this is fiction. Not joking. Serious.
Right. Well,
that's sort of interesting.
Yeah.
This is a work of fiction. This is a work of fiction. I'm not doing the exact wording, but that's the thrust of it. Yeah.
Crumbs.
A new truth, which is worrying because that's what happened with Donald Trump. And, he was just writing a new truth, which, at some stage, somebody has to say something is actually true. We have to believe in something and be able to verify it. So I think that sort of definition of truth needs to be highly defined.
You see, you make programs, you have done for many years at a very senior level. And here's the thing. It's a very, very slippery slope. And I agree with your comments about Trump, etc. I'm not a Biden fan either, but that's beside the point. It's a very slippery slope to present something as the truth when it's either fiction or it's a blatant lie or it's just not true.
Yeah.
And you don't know, you're on shifting sand. You don't know which way is up anymore.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Well, the next program I'm going to talk about is sort of actually very much on the same theme. It's a history drama documentary. I don't often talk about history programs, but this is particularly good. I had only just come across it. It actually goes back to 2016. It appeared on my Netflix feed, and I thought it must be brand new, and in fact it wasn't. But actually, it's about the Far East equivalent of the Nuremberg trials post the Second World War.
Yes.
It's called Tokyo Trial. Wow. It's a 4-part series. It's unbelievably well made. It uses real life footage intercut into the drama around the 12 jurists who were brought from all over the world to conduct the trial of the 28 Japanese who were up on charges of obviously mass crime. There's quite a lot of technical detail about what type of crime it is that they're there for. And the way that they play the story about the jurists, some are more liberal, some want a definition around what is truth and what isn't. Ugh. Obviously, we all understand generally that history is written by the victors. But in this case, there's quite a lot of sort of questioning about, well, actually, was Hiroshima a disproportionate response to what the Japanese were doing? And what were the Japanese just doing their form of imperialism around the world, which actually the British and the Dutch and the Spanish had been doing for hundreds of years before and conquering places around the world? So why was what they were doing any worse than what we had been doing as imperialists? It's fascinating in terms of the history it brings out and the beautiful way they intercut the story using this real footage. So when you see the courtroom, they actually cut up footage from 1947-48. Huh. It was supposed to be a 5-month trial. It lasted for 2.5 years.
Good God.
And it questions all your beliefs and all your sensibilities and really your understanding around the Second World War. The Second World War was the first time there had ever been trials after a war where people were prosecuted. So it's a really interesting piece, and I urge everybody to watch it because it's full of information and begs a lot of questions.
And that's Tokyo Trials on Netflix, yes?
It's called Tokyo Trial, and it's on Netflix. It's a 4-parter, 1 hours, but absolutely worth every single minute.
I tell you what got me from what you just said was only 28 people. I'm not being rude. I mean, you would have thought it was, 2,800 or something.
Well, it was
found 28 people.
Yeah, so the Americans, General MacArthur, put together that trial of the top 28. General Tojo, who in fact had tried to commit suicide earlier on when he'd been captured, was resuscitated by the Americans. So it was basically the war cabinet. But there were about another 700 people who were put on trial, different trials, and went to jail or indeed to their death after the Second World War. It's fascinating.
The reason why I think that I'd love this is because it reminds me, there was a book that I read not so long ago called Nuremberg's Voice of Doom, which actually combines two sort of interests of mine. One was obviously sort of the time of the Second World War, but the other one being, would you believe, radio. And that is that Nuremberg's Voice of Doom is a biography, or it's really strange. It's part autobiography, it's part biography. It's very, very strange. It's a hybrid. But about a chap called Wolf Frank, who was the chief interpreter at the Nuremberg trials.
Oh.
And fascinating stuff about that. And that I really, really am so shocked that something like that's never been made into some sort of documentary or film, because I knew nothing about this guy. And what he only witnessed firsthand was extraordinary. And to top it all off, had a really sad life around him. So I know we're not here to talk about books, but I can highly recommend Nuremberg's Voice of Doom if you were to so read something like this. Anyway, what I would also point out as well, if I may, is that I have discovered a new series that, Chantal, I know that you would appreciate on Discovery Plus. Now, I don't know whether or not you have access to Discovery Plus, but it is called Emergency. Now, Emergency is actually the Australian equivalent of 24 Hours in A&E.
Oh, wonderful. Great.
You too.
No, I know. That's why I said Chantal when I knew you would.
I won't go near it.
But I have to say that I know this sounds really... It sounds actually quite gruesome, really. But actually, I think we're quite used to the candidness, if I can put it like that, of 24 Hours in A&E, because they don't really hold back. If you think about sort of some of the things that are shown, in the Australian version, they're obviously a little more flower-like about it, because there are some things that they actually pan out of the camera that you don't see the gory details of. But their description and what they make up for is the explanation given by the doctors and actually seeing them in action and the way they treat the patients and the efficiency as well. I mean, I'm not saying the NHS isn't efficient. Well, I'm slightly, but I'm not saying the NHS isn't efficient, but the Australian, good grief, their medical system is extraordinary. So it takes place at, it's the Royal Melbourne Hospital, I believe.
Right.
So,
okay. I mean, some people love gory stuff on television. It completely turns off others. But I think, right at the beginning of when I joined the show, however many months ago that was, I was talking about Dr. Pimple Popper.
That's my limit.
Gory action. But actually, that has thrown up so many derivatives. So there are lots of programs now about boils and pimples.
Please, I actually will be sick. I'm not joking. I'm really actually feeling nauseous. I'm not joking.
Okay.
Oh, Christ.
We'll move on.
If you wouldn't, it's ridiculous.
Well, I should also point out as well, actually,
I get a gag reflex straight away.
If you are a fan of what we'll now nickname DPP, the program you just mentioned, so as to save Russ his blushes.
Thank you so much.
Do you know what? Actually, that sounded much easier to say in my head. I'm going to try it for take 2. DPP. Actually, we will save Russ his blushes. There we go. That's better. That is also on Discovery Plus as well. So, but I can't watch that just yet. I haven't got it in me.
As people are asking, as a television expert, have you watched any of GB News? What do you think? I know it's early days. Well, kind of early-ish. Okay. Not that early now.
So I have watched a bit. I worked a little bit with Andrew Neil a few years, many years ago. He's
already taken a break.
Well, he's already taken a break. It's only been on air for about 5
years. I'm being perfectly serious. That was in the news today. I believe it to be true that Andrew Neil has announced he's taking a break from GB News. I can only assume it was a bit tiring getting it on air.
Gosh. Technically, they haven't got their act together. And actually, it's not that difficult to get sound right, to get lighting right. I mean, the three of us do this every Friday.
Look at this. Actually, we're one man and a dog. You're in New York. Phil's in Hertfordshire. I'm somewhere. I mean, it can't be beyond the wit of man. We didn't get 60 million quid invested in us. We didn't even have 6 quid. Seriously, we didn't even have 6 quid invested in us. Yeah. So there you go.
No, and between us, we've all researched our pieces for the day. We've all got, we knew what we were going to do when we came on air this morning. So, it shouldn't be difficult, this stuff. Clearly, they're dealing with news, but we are doing this live. We don't have auto cue in front of us. So I'm disappointed that technically it looks a bloody mess. It's a pity.
It does. It looks shocking.
Yeah. It's shocking. The set is just wrong in so many ways. It's just too busy, too garish. They've got the lighting wrong.
A shame. There's no other way to describe it, because don't get me wrong, I'm in the interest of transparency, obviously, GB News could be seen as a rival station to where I work, but I believe that sort of when they were talking about its launch, that I believe there's always a place for other news outlets. Always believe it. I don't think you can have too many news outlets, but it just seems quite shocking given that I know a great number of people who've gone to work there, and I know how good they are at their jobs. Yeah. And this is why I find shocking.
Well, I think what I've been disappointed about, I probably spent 20 minutes watching, I think she's called Michelle, I can't remember her surname, she's a northern woman. Dewberry, exactly, who I think she stood for UKIP. Was that right, Phil?
Oh yeah, do you know what? Now you've mentioned that. Yes, that does ring a bell. I couldn't remember why. Yes,
but actually, I thought her level of interviewing was very, very poor. She is not a natural broadcaster. I thought her lack of knowledge was not good. And I think if you're going to be a news broadcaster, you've really got to know your stuff. And I don't like jaundiced news. I think news, we've grown up in the UK where news is, we're back to truth again, that you want to believe what you hear without somebody else varnishing it in a different way and putting a spin on it. So I don't like spin particularly. I prefer my news just delivered to me with, 100% truth running all the way through it. So I felt very disappointed by her. I thought she let the side down, but I'm sure she's a terribly nice woman, but not doing what she's doing. Just
I'm a reasonably nice guy, but I'm not going to be a Formula One driver, am I?
She spent a lot on her clothes and a lot on her makeup and a lot on her, beautifully coiffured hair. But I think a lot less was spent on scripting.
Now, Ed Grossman is saying, you see, Ed, I'm going to let Chantal, because she's taken the time and trouble to join us. And he's going, okay, what about the content? That's important, not the bloody sound. Technically, I disagree straight away. If you're watching and listening to something and the sound is intrusive and it's getting in the way between what they're trying to say and you understanding it, it does matter, Ed.
Let me put it this way, Ed. If you are creating a podcast, okay, I know that GB News is not a podcast, but if one is creating a podcast, then audio is the only thing that matters. If something is not audible, then guess what? People turn off. And you don't want that either. Anyway, look, one thing that we do want is to probably focus on why we're here. And as I say, that I'm very aware that GB News is not something that's my problem. So let's move on.
We're just enjoying the opportunity, because if you have somebody of Chantal's experience and caliber, it's good to ask. You and I can talk from our level, but then you've got Chantal at a totally different level. And I think it's an important question. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of totally different level, what do you think, Chantal, of floor 17 of where I am at the moment?
Very good. I'm very impressed. I'm on floor 44, and I'm
on the bloody ground floor, so everybody can shut up about it.
I feel like I've discovered the old set for Daybreak. Do you remember that? As a short-lived breakfast program for ITV. But
Indeed.
Anyhow, right? Okay. Yes. What else have you found? We've got to do a quick fire now, I'm afraid.
Briefly, before we get to 2 o'clock, because it's rapidly approaching, find some time to watch something called Philly DA, which is on BBC 4. It's part of Storyville. It's about the Philadelphia District Attorney, DA as they call them out here, which is a post that is voted for, which means that the legal system here has this very odd overlay of politics. But this guy is a liberal. He was voted in 2018. He's up for re-election, and he is trying to solve the crime problem. Well, not the crime problem as much as the penal system in America. As we speak, nearly 7 million Americans are in the penal system. That's nearly 2% of Americans in the penal system. It is ludicrous.
7 million.
And this documentary series is about this guy who is trying to revolutionize that, to stop as many people going into the penal system and to try and solve problems. It's fascinating. It's like Law and Order, the great Dick Wolf series, but it's for real. So you see real cases and you see how this guy is struggling with trying to make change. It's absolutely worth it. It's called Philly DA, part of Storyville on BBC4. Highly recommended.
Excellent stuff. And anything else on Quickfire whilst we've got less than a minute?
Quickfire, if you want something fun, watch Penguin Town on Netflix. Which
it's amazing. Please watch it. It's incredible.
Tales from the Riverbank, Johnny Morris style. The penguins have personalities. They give little.
And who knew?
Names.
Who knew penguins were in South Africa?
Who knew penguins were in South Africa?
Oh, I love that.
8 parts, 25 minutes each. It's hilariously funny and just a total feel-good piece.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I quite like the way it's narrated, but let's not dwell on that. But I do like the program, though.
Yeah.
Chantel, thank you so much.
Enjoy New York. Have a lovely breakfast.
Keep well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Gracious me.
Amazing.
And now also we have to thank all of our guests for today.
Yes,
obviously,
please.
We've got to say huge thank you to Stefan Wyatt, who joined us from Audi. We also got to say a huge thank you to Leslie Thomas, and of course to TJ Power, and of course Chantel Rickards as well.
And we will be back. Thank you, as always, for all your wonderful comments and everything. You really make the show. You take it to a different level. We can't get through everything, but we try. And thank you so much. We'll be back, God willing, on Monday at 12 o'clock. Until then, please take care.
Indeed. Have a good weekend. See you Monday at midday. Bye.